Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's AEW Dynamite review show here on the unofficial WWE podcast. Today is Thursday, it's Thursday. It's past midnight. Oh my gosh, it's time for bed. All right, today is Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. It was Wednesday just a few minutes ago. As promised, guys, this week I have Ashley Mann, the Ashley Mann, on the review show. We talked for like over 2 hours about this week's Dynamite, and obviously started off just talking about a bunch of the stuff going on in the Dynamite realm of things beforehand. So, favorite show yet, guys. She is awesome. So great to just nerd out and talk about wrestling for like 2 hours. So, if that's what you like to listen to, then this is your podcast. But I want to thank you guys real quick before I forget. Got a bunch of awesome emails from you. Thank you for all the well wishes. I am hopefully getting right back into this whole thing as soon as possible. As soon as wrestling is able to be watched by me again, I'll be back on here, and hopefully it won't be long. I'm hoping I really don't miss out that much, but I really wanted to thank you guys. It means the world to me. I can't imagine. I can't believe how lucky I am to have some people actually reach out and email me and wish me luck and all that. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that, and I will shut up with that because we got 2 hours with Ashley Mann, and like I said, she's awesome to talk to. Super great insight. Yeah, so awesome show, AEW this week, and I will talk to you guys next time.
Championship means that much. I can't believe what we're seeing here.
DMD. All right, everybody, as promised, I am here with the Ashley Mann, and we are reviewing this week's AEW Dynamite episode, and what a show it was from top to bottom. Pretty hard to find things to complain about, but I'm sure I will. Ashley, how you doing?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here. Like I said before we started officially recording, I'm happy to talk AEW. I rarely get to, at least in a format like this. So I'm just super excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Of course, we'll try to keep it as short as possible because I'm with you. I feel like I could talk about all the things going on in AEW. I feel like we could just talk about Kenny Omega for a 2-hour show and everything. Easily. In regards to him and the web of Kenny Omega's title run. But before we get into it, I told you I was going to ask you a couple questions. You told me that you went to the first ever TV show in DC. I'm so curious to know, because I've never been to an NXT show. Obviously, I think I wasn't old enough to ever go to an ECW show. Like a real rowdy fan show. I mean, the closest I've ever gotten to was like Raw at the Garden, but like I was so young, I don't even remember. What was it like to be in the crowd at the first ever TV show in DC?
It was amazing, and it's funny. Like I went there with one friend in particular, and we ended up meeting up with another group of friends. But I remember telling him, just even waiting outside for about, I think we were outside for about a half hour. Just the vibe was completely different than any other WWE show that I had ever been to. And I'd been to, of course, WWE shows, and then a few RH shows in the past, but this was just the excitement and just the vibe before you even got inside of the building was so crazy and just so surreal. Like you felt like you were amongst friends, and like everyone was there for something in common, and like not just there just for a show, but there because like you really wanted to be there and you were excited. So it was just a completely different feeling. And then once you got inside, like just everything that they offered was just so different. Like everything was so like fan interactive, and just like they were like excited for you to be there. There were signs everywhere. Like of course they had merch stands everywhere, but just like everyone, just like the vibe and just like the setup that they have, like with the posters and everything, was just so cool. And they had like different stands where like you can go and get like your picture taken in front of like this animated, like this backboard had like just like fireworks like going off in the background, like with their logo and stuff. So it was just pretty cool, just like little stuff like that. Whereas WWE, it's exciting depending on the show that you're going to, especially if it's like a pay-per-view, but if it's just a Raw, like the drastic change and just the different environment and feel was just the first thing that stood out. And to me and my friend especially, like, it was just like we were just like, wow, like it's night and day, night and day. So if there's ever an option where you have to choose, like you personally, like if you're gonna go to an AEW or a WWE show, of course, depending on the time of year and the show itself, I would probably lean towards AEW, especially if you've never gone yet.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards AEW as well. The one show, or the last show we went to was we went to Money in the Bank, actually, last May, or 2 Mays ago. I don't know. It was a while ago. And when Bailey won. And we had great seats and everything. And we, like, again, if we're going to go, we're going to go kind of thing. And I remember we got there and, like, you know, there was a man who was oversized in comparison to the seats that they had there for us. And so he had to take up more than one seat. You know, they have those, like, take-home chairs. And so everybody else kind of got scooted down a row. And no, just everybody was so unfriendly or not friendly about it. I just remember it was, like, very, I don't know, it was like a teen girl concert kind of vibe, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we had a great time. But I'm with you. If I'm going to go to something that's exciting. And so I'm not the kind of person who's just going to pay for nosebleeds at a Raw.
Right.
I'd rather just be at home in my own couch watching it. But it sounds awesome. We'd love to go. Can't wait for that to come back. I mean, especially for AEW's sake, it's nice. Especially tonight. The crowd was loud tonight. You could really hear them.
Yeah.
But
I was
I'm
wondering if
excited for
they
a full
even
house.
had more fans than normal tonight, which is how loud they were.
Yeah, Chris Jericho too, especially. So with that being said, then I have to ask you: any favorite wrestlers in AEW? Men, women, both?
Yes, yes. So, especially lately, I'm such a Dr. Britt Baker fan.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
I'm just so blown away. Even so, when she first started, and I forget the four competitors in the match, but back in the online match that she was involved in, like there was just something about her, and like yeah, she needed a lot of work compared to everyone else, but she was so new into the game at that point already. But ever since then, I was like, man, like you can just look at her and tell she's a star. And the second she turned heel, like it was just literally night and day. So I love Britt Baker. I'm so excited to see what she does going forward, and I'm sure we'll get into it tonight, but I'm happy that she's finally next in line for what appears to be a title shot for the women's championship. So I'm just so excited to see what they end up doing with her. And if we're talking just strictly like AEW homegrown talent, I would have to go MJF. Like as much as it pains me to say it, I'm excited to see how far he pushes things and to see like just how he grows in his progression, because he's just a star. So between him, Orange Cassidy, and Jungle Boy, like those are my three like favorites in AEW right now. But they just have a roster where it's hard to even choose favorites, because then like I sit here and think about them, and then you have people like Rey Fenix, right? And it's just like how do you just narrow it down? So that's the good thing about them. And then of course you have your Moxes and your Chris Jerichos and all them, but AEW related specifically, I'd have to go with that little group.
Yeah, you're. I'm glad I have you on the show. You mentioned my two names, Rey Fenix and Britt Baker. Everybody who listens to the show knows I can't stop ever talking about them. Two, in my opinion, I mean, talk about Britt Baker's growth, like you said, just unbelievable. When she turned heel, like that injury, it sucks to say about people, but that was like the best thing that ever happened to her. So I'm in total agreement with you on most of those names, but especially Rey Fenix, Death Triangle in general, which we're definitely going to talk about later too. But before we actually get into the show, I still have a couple more things for you, because big news of last week was that AEW hit 1.2 million on the ratings, and the demographic was huge too. I forget the 18 to whatever demographic. I want to ask you, one, about that, if you think it was because they went uncontested or whatever your thoughts are, and then two, if you have any idea, and maybe it had something to do. So funny, I have Chris Jericho written down here too. Chris Jericho being on the Stone Cold sessions, and do you think that's a threefold, I guess, if AEW is going to be any kind of real competition to WWE now or in the future, in a couple years or two? Again, when I say competition, we take that lightly, 2 different nights and all that stuff, but I don't think it's ever going to be a bad thing. So yeah, all your thoughts on all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I think first and foremost the rating that they got last week was well deserved. I know within like I think it's the 7 day time frame, and with their DVR numbers included, they would always pretty much average over the 1 million mark. But for them to get it all in one night, I think that was the first time since the actual debut episode that they had actually topped that million mark. So that's just exciting and encouraging in and of itself. You know, you can break it down. Yeah, it's obviously because that was the first night unopposed, and you do have the extra fan base too who is available, obviously. So I think that is encouraging, but honestly, I think they may hover around like the 900,000 mark going forward on an average. I think maybe even tonight they may top a little bit over a million, but I think it's going to go down a bit from last week. And then I think they may just, like I said, level out at the 900,000 mark. But I think it's just going to go up from here, and I think they're slowly going to build, because I think especially once things start opening up, and with Florida, well, I guess Florida's always been in their own little world down there regarding what they will and won't allow during like this pandemic season. But especially with everything, you know, vaccinations and everything, just I guess looking on the bright side, it's just going to get better for a company like AEW, because that excitement is going to build. More and more people are going to go, and their name's just going to continue to be out there. But in regards to Chris Jericho, I think that may have had something to do with it as well. But at the same token, too, with the network before WWE Network dissipated and sold to Peacock, which side note, I'm still salty about. Like, that's a whole other tirade. Like, that's literally a whole other show, and I'm trying to keep it PG and all that good stuff, so for editing purposes for you. But yeah, I'm just not happy about that. Peacock is horrible. But I think with WWE, they basically averaged around like a little over 1 million subscribers, maybe 1.5. But it wasn't anything crazy. And which is, if you think about it, averages your weekly Raw fan base. So I think the majority of people who knew about Chris Jericho and cared about Chris Jericho already knew where he was, if that makes sense. So I don't think they may, they may have gotten as much, I guess, rub off of Chris Jericho being on there, but it definitely didn't hurt. And it was cool for both parties to actually be involved and to say the words, you know, All Elite Wrestling, and to show a picture of the title belt, and just to mention, you know, the stuff that they did. So I think if nothing else, WWE should get some kudos and Vince for allowing that to happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a cool thing to break the invisible door, as they say, but I think as a business decision, the stupidest thing in the world to put it on. Out of all, you could have put this on any weekend or any Sunday, Saturday coming, and they picked the one night WrestleMania that they get all these people coming in to watch, and people who were fans of Chris Jericho, casual fans back in the day, who maybe didn't know where he was. You know, so I'm with you. I don't think it played a huge part, but I definitely think it played a good amount. And I'm also with you about the 900,000. I think they slowly start to even out, but I think Blood and Guts, we hit over 1 million again, just like they did with Shaq, and then I think live crowds come back, and that's when we're really going to see, you know, where WWE's at and where AEW's at. Who would have thought, right, we'd be talking about this at all? Like, they are not the minor leagues, you know.
Definitely not.
So great. I mean, great all around. Like, as fans, again, I hate to use the word competition, but, you know, multiple wrestling promotions out there doing well only serves us better. So all good stuff. Speaking of multiple wrestling promotions, not that it's necessarily anywhere near AEW and WWE, but Impact. As you can tell, I don't watch it weekly. Impact, this weekend, Rich Swan versus Kenny Omega.
Hey, you got it. I was about to say last week it made me laugh because you weren't sure of his name. It was just the funniest thing.
I know, I had to double check this time.
It was so great.
No, 100%. I maybe he was Rick Swan in WWE. Maybe I'm just getting Rick from thin air, which I don't. I wouldn't be surprised. But Rich Swan, Kenny Omega. I'm pretty sure about this one. I think Kenny Omega takes this one clean, and maybe that's also because I don't watch Impact. When I say clean, I don't mean takes the, you know, I'm sure there will be some kind of involvement. But I think Kenny Omega is going to become the dual champ there. I'm just curious to hear about your thoughts. Are you going to buy the pay-per-view?
I am not going to buy the pay-per-view.
Neither am I.
I have nothing against them, but I'm like you. I don't watch it weekly. I did tune in to that first episode where the Kenny Omega was going to show up with Don Callis and all that. So they get me there. But not to be negative, but just nothing hooked me. It was just like a different vibe. Not right now. And with everything, else going on and all the other content. It's just like you have to kind of pick and choose what you make time for right now. So unfortunately, I just can't fit them in, as bad as that sounds. But yeah, I'm just not there with it. And correct me if I'm wrong, or I could be missing something, but was this like the first night that AEW even mentioned it on their TV that Kenny Omega was going to be showing up and Impact and that he was defending the title? And like I did see a commercial about it as
I was
well,
just
but
gonna say, I
was
think a
tonight the first
commercial.
night?
Yeah, I think a commercial was as far as I got.
Yeah, and I think Kenny mentioned it when they were in like the trailer or something, or Don Callis
Yeah.
may have, that he was defending it. Because they mentioned that he was the AAA heavyweight champion as well.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty sure that was the first time. So it's very interesting that your champion is defending his title, and there's it's supposed to be a good chance that he could lose, and this is like the first time you're mentioning it. It was just kind of odd to me.
Yeah, so I think that's the clear giveaway as to who's coming
Yeah,
away with both
unfortunately
belts.
for Rich Swan.
Rick. Though, with that being said, I have to say, I will watch Impact if we get, and I think this is the best decision and a beautiful transition on my part, if I may say so. If the Iconics, or whatever they end up being, end up in Impact, I will
Oh,
definitely
yes.
tune in to see that. I think that's the best place that they go, and so just because there's already a women's tag division in there, from what I know. So that's my next question for you. The bunch of WWE releases last week, right? Last week. Again, it all
Yeah.
blurs together now. But I think, with AEW taking all this talent in, we got Paul White. If I were AEW, I'd send Paul White back and get Samoa Joe. No offense to the Big Show, but I mean, just all these new WWE talent that are free agents, by July 14th. Can't believe I remember that date off the top of my head. I
That was
really like
great.
the Iconics.
That's
But
great.
do you think, out of any of these women or men, is anybody ending up in AEW?
I hope the Iconics do. I think they would be a great addition to their division. It wouldn't surprise me if they went to Impact, to be honest with you, but I think they would be a great fit in AEW just because they need a little bit more depth to that specific division. And I think Billie Kay I think her real name is Jessie Kay or something like that. But we're just gonna stick with Billie Kay for now.
Let's go with it.
Um, I think she would just breathe so much life into that division. I think her coming in as a babyface, or both of them coming in as a babyface, and going right after a heel champion, Britt Baker. Yes, they aren't super solid in the ring compared to some, but I just think that you have to strike when it's hot, right? And I think them coming off the bat and just having that freedom on the mic, and not saying that they would be necessarily the type to diss, if you want to call it that, WWE or anything like that, but I think that they could just tie it into a storyline and just a fresh direction with Britt Baker or something like that, just right off the bat. So for me personally, I would love to see them in there because I was huge fans of, especially Billie Kay with what she's been doing, or what she had been doing lately with her whole resume shtick and everything like that. It's just whatever she got, whatever time she had on TV, she really capitalized on it, and that was just like a smack in the face to me, in my opinion. It was just everything that they've been doing, and Peyton Royce as well. Like with that promo that she did on Raw Talk, and as much as she had been improving in the ring, it was just I don't know. Amongst a lot of things WWE does, I did not understand these two being released at all, and I think they'll be one of the ones to really go on and progress and just build on in the ring and out of the ring.
Yeah, I'm hopeful of that. I sadly I don't think it's gonna happen, just because of, like, maybe I'm just cynical, but I think their humor, and again, I'm with you. I felt like hurt by I was like, I invested in Billie Kay in this whole resume. Like, I was more invested in Billie Kay than I've been with any world champion lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think their humor. I think they were so funny because of the environment they were in. It's kind of like, I don't know, if you surround yourself with a bunch of people who laugh a lot, all of a sudden you're really funny. Or if you surround yourself with a bunch of people who aren't that funny, all of a sudden you're the funniest person in the room. But when you surround yourself with a bunch of people who maybe are a little bit funny or whatever, it's a little bit harder. I don't know if the comedy will carry over. And like you said, though they're not great, as great in the ring as a lot of these other women. Not on WWE. I want to throw that out there because I don't know. You lose Peyton Royce, but you keep Lana. That's a whole nother podcast.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I don't. The only way I could see it is if Billie Kay took more of a managerial role. And like you said, I mean, Britt Baker wasn't that great in the ring either not too long ago, and with the improvements that she's made just in the past year, who knows? Sadly, I don't see it happening. I see more of an Impact thing, and for AEW, I think they'd be stupid not to jump on Samoa Joe, or at least try. Even if it's not in the ring, something, whether it's training or whatever, teaching guys how to cut promos better. I think it's just such a great asset. Same with Mickie James. I think to have Mickie James train a lot of those women who are much greener, get a Ty Conti with Mickie James to learn, even again, if it's not on camera. But I think the one for sure we're getting in AEW is Chelsea Green. I think Chelsea Green, probably the most unfortunate, incident with the broken wrist and whatever else she had going on. I think she would be a giant asset to AEW. So, and again, she's not much like when you say Chelsea Green, you don't think AEW. Excuse me, you don't think WWE. So it's not like you're signing an ex-WWE star, you know what I mean? Because I know they get a lot of flack for that. Not that they should care, but...
Yeah, no, I would think your average fan, when you hear Chelsea Green, you would still relate her to Impact and TNA in that route. And because her hot mess character that's what really stood out to me, and that's why I think WWE did drop the ball with her character-wise there. Like, I feel like they really could have capitalized on that, but even when she was injured, I feel like, character-wise, they could have gotten her on TV at least for a few minutes to do something, but that's interesting, yeah. I feel like I kind of expected her to go back to Impact, but I would be interested to see what she did in AEW, too.
Yeah, her and Mickie James, again, would both probably slide right back into Impact. But definitely, when I think of the releases, I think more of the women. I think AEW's men's division, like 2 hours, we were talking about it, they crammed so much in 2 hours already. I don't think we could take any more. But yeah, those are all the pre-questions I had for you. If you're ready, we can just jump right in. I think I told you before, we just go down the card here one by one. And we started off with Ricky Starks. Opening match, Ricky Starks versus Adam Page. Something that is going to main event, pay-per-views within the year or two, I think. Obviously, Ricky Starks had Hook coming out with him. I don't know about you from the start. I had a feeling and pretty much knew this match was going to be incredible. I mean, you see Adam Page is incredible in his matches with people who are not at the level of Ricky Starks. And so I was just excited to see what this was all about, but I'll give you the quick recap. We had the pre-match promo during the entrance, and Ricky Starks basically just saying that, Page, you can't get it done under pressure, and that he thrives under the pressure. I think we got the classic diamond line. And then we had Page with a crossbody to the outside. There was an awesome over-the-back suplex, but did you see Ricky Starks supposedly landed on his feet? It looked like he broke his neck.
Oh my gosh.
Hard to watch.
Yes.
Brainbuster, sit out Liger Bomb, and then there was the fall away slam and then a clothesline, and it looked like Starks injured his ankle or something is what Taz was saying. I don't know how. I didn't see how, but we had him selling that throughout the match, and that was most of the story. Towards the end, we got Stark reverses the buckshot lariat, hits him with the spear, near fall, and some awesome counters back and forth until Page pulls him over the back into a modified bulldog submission. I've never seen that before. Cranks on the injured elbow, and we get a quick tap out. After the match, we had Taz on the mic, and he's basically saying, you got lucky, you're the number 1 ranked wrestler here, but you need to worry about watching your back. And I think we all knew what was coming after that. Chop block by Hook, and then you get Brian Cage coming out to help with the beatdown, but then the Saviors, the Dark Order, come out to make the save. Whole lot to unpack there. I want to hear your thoughts on the match, the after the match, the Dark Order, Adam Page dynamic, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, so like you said, once I realized they were opening with this match, I was very happy, and it's refreshing to see that they didn't go straight to like another Christian Cage or like a familiar like WWE face just to kind of capitalize on the momentum from last week. I like that they went with 2 of their stars, and Ricky Starks and Hangman Adam Page, and like you said, like this match is definitely going to main event pay-per-views in the future. And I actually wrote that down. Like Ricky Starks himself, like he's still new in his AEW career, and even I guess the majority of them are, but character-wise, like we're still learning more about him, and I'm just so excited to see where he goes. You just look at him and he just screams star, right? Like there's just something about him that even like when he's not saying anything, or like if Taz is doing the talking, for instance, and he's to the side, like there's just still something that draws you to him. So it's just he's going to be a big deal for them one day. But Hangman Adam Page, I think correct me if I'm wrong. Are you predicted and you think that Hangman will, like, we're shooting way far ahead, but you think it'll end up being Hangman Adam Page versus Kenny Omega for the championship, right? And you think Adam may be the one to dethrone Kenny?
Yeah, I
Because I
think
would.
as soon as Double or Nothing.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it may happen a little bit later than Double or Nothing, but I'm totally with you on that. And I think that we're like, I just love seeing like the slow build with Hangman Adam Page now, and especially since he embraced the Dark Order and the direction that they had to, unfortunately take. But I think I'm at first I wasn't really a fan of it because I just to I guess be honest, I don't catch all of the BTEs and their YouTube shows and stuff like that, so a lot of their jokes do kind of go over my head, but I just accept it and take it as, I'm just out of the loop on some of their jokes, but I can appreciate it for what it is. So I'm happy to see that Hangman's just kind of like embracing it and kind of enjoying himself, but I'm super excited to see where they go for him, and I hope that they start building him just further and further to truly be the one to dethrone Omega, because I think at this point he's the only other option, really. It's like, unless you were going to go back to Moxley.
Yeah, and I think that well is dry at this point. I want to see Moxley and Kingston in a tag team division.
Yes,
but
me too.
We'll get to that, I'm sure, as well. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Double or Nothing is a little bit soon, but I could see it. I think they're really going for the slow burn with this, like you said. The only thing I would say about that is I would love to see a little bit more just of like subtle linking between the two, like they kind of did last week with that interview backstage, and Paige just completely brushed off the question from Marvin. I don't know if you remember that, but like little things like that just continue to link the two, so we're not just having like, oh,
Yeah.
here's another win under Hangman's belt, like over and over and over again.
And it's not just like a shock, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or more so just like, we all headcanon know the purpose of these wins and these continuous like kickoff matches that Paige is having, but like tell us actually kayfabe, like in the story as well. But in regards to the ending of this, I didn't get it. I wasn't mad at it, but the whole beatdown with Team Taz, like I understand heels, sore losers, I got that. I don't know. I put a little bit more faith in AEW, I guess, than just that. I don't know, do we have Christian incorporate with the Dark Order? Is there going to be some great six-man tag with Paige and Christian and whoever? Like, I'm curious to see if they, those two paths intertwine, considering Christian and Kenny had that brief interaction. Again, I'm thinking way out, but it was a little bit random. I don't know about you, I just didn't, I guess weirdly enough, I didn't expect the heels to do a beatdown or attempted beatdown afterwards.
Yeah, and
Team Taz is busy.
yeah, and like not to be like that person, but like I'm not really like a fan of like Hook being there all the time. Like I don't know, and it's just kind of weird to me. Like, and like, not to again be that person, but like it kind of reminds me of like Marco Stunt, right? It's just like they don't really need to be out there, like not all the time. So for me personally, like especially like when you look at him compared to like a Brian Cage and like Will Hobbs, right? Like it's just like, and then you have Hook, like. I don't know. To me, it just kind of like takes me out of it a bit. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they go. But I think Christian can't really be involved because isn't he supposed to be like racking up wins to eventually face Kenny himself? So I think that they may be trying to go that route for Kenny's title defense at Double or Nothing.
Okay.
Just like continue to build Christian, in my opinion. But I don't know. I definitely don't see Christian in Dark Order right now. Do you?
No, I don't. That's why it was like seeing the weird like link between Taz, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so maybe, again, at the very least, maybe we see just some kind of six-man tag and a short, brief alliance. But I'm thinking way out into this. And though the thing about, like you said, with Hook and Marco Stunt, so funny. I don't really think about it, maybe because I'm so desensitized because I've seen Hornswoggle get his butt whooped, again, to keep it PG, by JBL for so long in like my childhood.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that. But it doesn't faze me much, I guess. But my fiance, when she watches this stuff with me, she's like, I don't like when the kids are out there. It freaks me out. And I'm like, babe, they're older than you. And she's like, yeah, but they don't look it. Even Jungle Boy, she's like, it's weird to me. And so I don't know if exactly that's where you're coming from. But funny, it's a different perspective again. Sometimes we get so desensitized to this stuff just because we've been watching it for so long.
Yeah, it is in a weird way, and like to me, like normally I'm not like a size person. Like it's like I really like I don't know. It doesn't like for instance like a Rey Mysterio and Big Show match. Like I could in a weird way like it would. I know it would take a lot, and it's in real life it's not believable, right? But like you
You
get
buy
to a
into
point
it.
where you start like to believe the build up for
Yeah.
Ray, right? But like I don't know, just seeing them like to me it's more of an annoyance because like they're not supposed to be involved in the match and stuff like that. Like they shouldn't be out there and just like I don't know, like it's just a weird thing for me. Like I don't know why. I'm
You
just
know, it
weird.
makes sense. I get where you're coming from believability wise. And I'm not, I wouldn't consider again, we're like on a podcast talking about how we're not size people. But we don't care about size on this podcast, guys. But but sorry, I couldn't. You put that one out there.
Right.
But I agree with you, and in some instances, and we're again when we get to the main event, I'm sure we'll talk about this more. Like I have that weird, I don't even know what to call it. I don't think it's like a judgment or anything, but just size and wrestling, right? Like the height, the muscles, all that stuff. It has its place, right? And for believability, for storytelling, for certain whatever. And I'm with you. Sometimes the like the little young scrawny dudes, whatever, who again have a great future in AEW, it can be hard to buy into it. But we're like way off from Hangman Page and Ricky
Yeah.
Starks. So we'll move on down to next. We had the what's it called? We had the Trent and right, if I'm right, do I have that right?
Yeah.
Yes, we had the Trent and Penta match.
Yep.
I just want to throw out there, like I told you in the beginning, I love Death Triangle, love the look of Penta, but
Me too.
and his translator now, who is apparently his manager. So he had that pre-match promo, or essentially all I got out of that was Orange Cassidy, we're gonna make you into orange juice. That was
Yeah, me
hilarious.
too. That's all I remembered from it.
You know, some awesome reversals back and forth. You know, we had Trent selling a super kick, which it's just my pet peeve. And then later on, Orange Cassidy completely selling one. So whatever. That's talk about believability to me. I'm such like a nitpicker about that stuff, but it drives me nuts. Like every
Me
now and
too.
then, like the Ray Phoenix cool, like reversals, I'm okay with it, but I just can't stand that as much as it's used. We had an incredible like fisherman suplex brain buster thing by Penta. And then Trent reverses the pile driver on the apron and hits one of his own and then hits a spear. And then Alex gets involved and distracts Trent by saying Sue sucks. So biggest heel in AEW right now because he went after Sue of all people. And Orange Cassidy tries to even the odds, gets a super kick, who, like I said, actually sells it. And then obviously Alex hits Trent with the mic and Penta hits the package pile driver and gets a 3 count. What were your thoughts on the match, the involvement, all of it? You know, feel bad for Sue.
Yeah, like Sue did nothing to
Come on
him.
at
Like
Sue.
he had to bring Sue into this. Like, come on now. So yeah, no. Again, another great match, and I'm a huge Penta fan as well. Like the whole Death Triangle, just big fans of. And I like that they're still acknowledging that they're together, but they're kind of both split off and doing their own thing. Whereas like
Yeah.
Pac and Phoenix are doing their own thing, and Penta's doing his own thing. So I kind of like that. And again, it was another great match, and normally, like, you'd be, obviously, like, he did his job, like, you're upset to see him win in that fashion because you know he can win without having to cheat and do all that stuff, so, but him being a heel now, it just solidifies that, so, it is what it is, so, it was a good match, though. How can you can't hate a match between those two, right? So, it was a good match, and I'm excited to see them maybe end up in a 6-man match going forward, maybe a Double or Nothing, so
Yeah, I was gonna say.
that may be something to look out for.
Yeah, either that, maybe on the Blood and Guts show as well, but I'm excited for that too.
True.
I mean, again, we've seen these matchups before, but it's been a while, and, you know, AEW is eventually going to have to start running stuff back. But it's such an interesting thing. You think that we were talking about, they really haven't been around for a while, but they have history to draw on still.
Yeah.
I think it's just, you know, acknowledging the great booking, obviously, that allows that. But next, of course, speaking of great booking, we had the Jim Ross sit-down interview with the Pinnacle. MJF, unbelievable. So yeah, you know, before going into this, I don't know about you, I'm a little down on the Pinnacle, and I'm with you. Like you said, I think MJF is the best promo. Maybe not, is one of the best promos in wrestling today. Maybe a couple weeks ago I would have told you he was the best, but one of the best promos in the week in wrestling today. And but I feel like the Pinnacle as a whole have kind of lost their heat. And I honestly feel like I have enough faith in AEW that I don't think that was the plan. I think there was like some Mike Tyson hot-shotting, and because Mike Tyson was making an appearance, they had to like, you know, make him look like the goofy heels for a couple weeks. I don't know how you felt about that, but I'm just like, I don't feel the animosity so much because the baby faces are like way over. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
making sense.
No, no, and I guess really quick, so are you like you're not really feeling them as a group together,
No,
or
no,
do you think?
I love the booking, and I think again the whole Four Horsemen's like underlying stuff and all of it's great. The feud between the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle.
Okay, gotcha.
I was hoping we were gonna come out to Blood and Guts, and I'm sure again we've got a week or two or whatever till then, but I was hoping we were gonna come at this point. I was gonna be the amount of heat that was gonna be on the Pinnacle as a whole was gonna be just scorching, and I was like itching to get to Blood and Guts. But really, the
Yeah.
baby faces have been getting the upper hand, outsmarting all this stuff, and like, I don't. Why are you going to Blood and Guts? You guys are, winning.
To me, it's funny you say that because I actually thought about that tonight. It kind of feels where, to me, it may be to a little lesser extent, but whereas like WWE, like for instance, in October, like like once it's Hell in a Cell time, like some matches are just gonna happen to Hell in a Cell because it's that time of year, and I feel like they've been dying to get this match done for how like over a year now, and they finally have two groups that make sense that would want to go against each other, and so they're just doing it now, and I think it's still gonna be an awesome match. Because I think they said something about it that it was just going to be a one match event or something like that. Like I heard something like that, and I wanted to ask you if you heard that as well. If they're going to have other matches on that show, or if it's just going to be that one match taking over the whole show with just the way they had worded one of their advertisements. But I don't know, like you said, like they are just missing a little bit, a little like just a little something. I feel like maybe their brawl backstage happened a little too soon. Because like, what do you do now? Do you have like another brawl backstage, and next week they're gonna have their what is it? They called it their parlay or something like that. So I guess we'll see what happens there. But either they're gonna have like another like verbal debate type thing, or they're gonna have another feud or like fist fight, like so where like all hell breaks loose type thing. So I don't know, but it's kind of like you already been there, done that. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's kind of been lackluster at this point.
Yeah, I just expected more, and I guess again, I always say I feel like I just hold AEW to a higher standard, which I should
For
because
sure.
they've allowed
It's
me
still
to.
great, but like you just expect it more, like you said.
Yeah, and especially out of this too. And I don't want to call this bad at all. I'm with you. I feel like it's been rushed. But again, I think the Mike Tyson thing threw a wrench and stuff, and I think that's really the reason that they kind of had. Again, we've got the lack of heat now on the Pinnacle. Like I said, I have faith in the next week or two. We're gonna get plenty of heat after this parlay, and we'll talk about that too, obviously. But after the whole parlay thing, gonna end up in some beatdown. At least I hope so. I want to go in hating the heels and rooting for the faces, not like feeling like I'm cool with the faces and the heels look like the goofball. Like a faction like the Pinnacle, I assume they're coming out on top. Early prediction, not much of a hot take, but just I don't know, something's missing. It's been a little sloppy in my opinion, and for the talent involved, I just expected more. But
Yeah.
this promo, this scarf, this everything. We have MJF talking about how Tully's at home right now, writing up the playbooks for Blood and Guts. I love that. I don't know why those little small
Such
details.
a good touch.
It's just believability for
Yes.
me. I again, I believe that. But he unveils the new silk scarf from Tully. And then we had Wardlow talks about Chris's quote unquote immortal promo and says it's just weird for me, but says it was almost a perfect promo that Jericho cut, but he stumbled his words a little when he got to him because the minute Wardlow came out of his mouth, he knew he was doing something wrong. I don't know, it felt like a weird mom, like a dad to a parent thing. Didn't get that. Maybe he was because he was by MJF, but MJF says you stand in front of bees so you look like an A. You wrestle with a bunch of bees so you look like an A. I love that line. I don't know about you.
Yes.
Like, again, like the Duff kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yes. So well done.
And then he says, I'm the one guy you couldn't outsmart. I'm not great for 25, and I'm making this PG, but I'm great, period. When you were 25, you were... I don't know, can I say that on the spot? I'm just going to say it, and we'll figure it out. When you were 25, you were curtain jerking on Worldwide. References back to when he beat Chris Jericho. And then, again, I love this line. I am a mark, but I'm not a mark for you. I'm a mark for your spot. And at Blood and Guts, I'm going to take it because when you're in the Pinnacle, you're always on top. Little hokey. I popped for when JR said it's like a scene from a John Wayne movie, and he starts, did you see, notice he starts like feeling up the scarf? I was like, yes, JR.
Yes.
But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Again, MJF, the best promo in AEW without a doubt. Wardlow, I don't know if it was just because, like we talked about, like when you're around a bunch of good, Wardlow is a B promo and MJF was an A, or what it was, but that didn't hit as much for me. But what did you think of this whole segment?
One of my notes was that Wardlow speaks, so I was just surprised that he actually spoke. That was like my second bullet point after MJF is like the future.
Yeah.
And he literally makes you stop what you're doing. Like at that point, I was wrapping up some things like after work, and like the second I heard JR and I realized there's a sit down interview. I was like, okay, it's time to watch. But like you don't want to miss a second of it because he's so good at what he does. Like he's so believable, and it's just like it's amazing how quick he just spews out all this stuff, and it just everything makes sense, and he's just so impactful with it. He's phenomenal. Like he's at the point where, and once he wrapped it up there, I was like, man, like no one else even needed to do anything. Like FTR and like Sean Spears have the best job right now. Like they literally just sat there and did nothing. Like they just had to get dressed up. like kudos to them. Like it's just, I don't know the longevity of the group itself. I think they may end up breaking up sooner rather than later, and just it going back to an MJF and Wardlow thing. Because MJF is just money. So I don't know. Like MJF can. Like we were just saying that you expect a little bit more, but MJF in that weird same token has that ability to get you excited for it the same way. So I'm curious to see what the parlay ends up looking like next week. Definitely, like if it's going to be like more of a comedy route thing, or if they're going to go a serious route. You would hope with the blood and guts aspect of it, they would go more serious this time.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to get a little bit of both. If the promos from tonight are of any inkling to any of that, but I'm with you. I love that Wardlow speaks. It's very like, again, I hate to make WWE comparisons, but it's so hard not to, because again, that's what we've been watching our whole lives. But like, same thing like you said with MJF, I feel the same way about Roman Reigns. Hate the guy, hate the character, right? But when he starts speaking, I gotta listen. And like MJF also, he almost feels like this is like, it's got super Evolution vibes to it. And again, I'm like a giant, like Evolution is my favorite faction of all time, probably. But it's almost like Randy Orton is leading Evolution, but 10 times better. And then you've got, again, Wardlow, like Batista, Wardlow speaks. I thought this was all, Tully is like Ric Flair. It fits. And so I'm with you. I think MJF is hilarious. Love the silk scarf bit. AEW has such a great talent of like bringing comedy in, but again, at the same time, like making it, like you said, impactful, managing or maximizing minutes, making it serious. But again, it's also not so serious where it's like we're watching a 45-minute NXT unsanctioned match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they don't beat you over the head with the comedy. Like they allow something to be funny and move on, and like it's just natural. Like you don't feel stupid for laughing at it.
Yeah. So a total agreement. This was great. And again, speaking of great, this women's match, Hikaru Shida versus Ty Conti. I always do that. Said it before. My fiance's name is Taylor, so Ty Conti. Whenever I see that, and I should just start writing it down like Thai, like the food.
Right.
We got that quick promo before the match. I love that. The little like it wasn't even a minute, I don't think, but just I think it made everything seem more important all of a sudden. It's crazy how little things like that can do that. Nice bow of respect, and then some forearms back and forth. I loved hearing. We were talking about the crowd, like loved hearing the dueling chants back and forth. Loved hearing crowd, and make a long story go away. Pump kick and the Thai KO. Again, it's so hard for me. Thai KO for a near count. I bid on that a little bit. Again, I kind of knew, but like still in the match they had me. Some more near falls back and forth and forearms, but then obviously Hikaru Shida hits the backbreaker and is it Katana, her finisher for the win. And again, I don't think this was in any doubt. Before we get into what happened after the match that I am, and it sounds like you are super hyped about, what did you think of the women's match tonight?
Oh, I thought it was one of the best women's matches that they've had in their company's history, period.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, especially on Dynamite itself. Like, Shida, I'm a little tired of seeing her as champion now. Like, I'm just a little over it, which we'll get to later on. But Shida, take nothing away from her. She has held the division, and she has been a really good champion. And it's just me personally. I'm ready for a change for it. But she is so good, and she really does bring out the best in every opponent that she's with, and she just continues to show that. But in this match, I think as well, you really showed the improvement from Ty Conti as like going forward, and what she's like progressed, and just the confidence that she's gained within this past. I think she's been there maybe a little less than a year now, but you can really tell she's put in work in the ring, like even when she hasn't been on TV itself. And it just showed tonight. I was just like, so impressed. And that senton that she did onto Shida when Shida was laying on the top rope, and the senton she did on the back of her, I was just so well done. And like you said, I knew she wasn't gonna win the title, but she got me on a few spots, and I would have loved to have seen a rematch with them going forward if they want to maybe fill a spot maybe next week or the week after. But I would not be mad at that. But yeah, and of course what happened after the match was kind of stole the show for me in that respect. So, but the match itself I was really impressed with.
Yeah, I love that spot too, and I'm with you. Like I could go for a rematch, and I think the best part is we're not gonna get it, and that's like. At least yet, you know what I mean? I'm sure later on down the line, but like again, that gives you something to want to come back to and be excited for. And like we talked about, like that building history kind of thing AEW has been doing. But I'm with you. I thought this was an amazing match. Again, last week, I was super high on the Red Velvet Jade Cargill match and their match too, the tag match. I can't believe we got 2 women's matches on one AEW show. But I'm with you. I thought this was awesome. That Hikaru Shida is just. I'm with you. I'm tired of her as champion, and then she gets in the ring, and she's so, like you said, she's so good at bringing the best out of everybody. And there's evidence of that because of all the people that she's faced too. She's just a general. She is just like, I don't know. Again, the best comparison I can make. She's like a Candice LeRae but better.
Yeah, and like you don't want to root against her. It's like what you just said there, especially stood out. Once you get in the ring, like you don't want to cheer. Like
exactly.
For me, that's it. You don't want to root against her, but it's like outside of the ring, it's just like you just want a little bit more that she's just not giving you right now.
Yeah, we don't get a lot from her on the mic. I don't feel like, and which is again a problem with AEW as a whole. But I think we'll get into what's probably coming next. But I have to say I have to give credit to that spot. She did like a bow and arrow submission, and then it was a modified surfboard, and then into a camel clutch. Like
beautiful transition.
Again, when we watch it with like a critical eye, I think I struggle to turn my brain off sometimes and just watch this stuff as a fan. But when I see stuff like that, I'm just tuned in to like exactly what's going on my screen. It's so hard for wrestling to do that nowadays, but just incredible wrestling. And then of course the critical brain comes on, and I'm like, again, just appreciating Hikaru Shida as a general in the ring and being able to, I'm sure, I don't know if you listened. Britt Baker did an interview with Renee Paquette. And she talked about Hikaru Shida, about just how much help she's been, how difficult it's been to be the champion in the pandemic era. Like, no one envies her position here.
I'll need to go check it out. I haven't heard it.
Oh, she's the best. Yeah, she's a great interview. But it still comes on TV, and I hate her in the best way possible, but she just comes across so well there. But speaking of Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, comes out after the match to unveil that she is now the new #1 in the rankings. Love Hikaru Shida's response. She chucked the kendo stick at her. So yeah, I'm super excited about this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How you think this whole thing's gonna go down?
The second I heard her music, I was so happy. Like I got so excited. Like part of me was like, they're probably just gonna hold off on it. It's gonna be the end of the segment. But the second her music played, like I was excited, and that's what you like. Maybe that's not what you want because you're not supposed to like her, right? But the second she came out, and I just loved everything about it. She came out, and the reveal was perfect. It was to hook up the entire screen. It was obnoxious. Like, it was, and showed that she was #1. She did her little thing, and like you said, she did through the kendo stick at her, which was so great. And just little things like that in AEW that they do, like you would never get to see in WWE.
Unscripted, off the cuff.
Yeah, and it's just the little things like that. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal, but then again, it was just because like you don't expect it. So, and then just to see her go back, and it's just, and that was it. A quick maybe she was out there a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, the entire thing. And it just sets the tone, and it gets you excited, and it plants that seed now going forward, depending on when they actually give you the match. But I, maybe as a spoiler or a hopeful prediction in my side, but I think that they're going to give Britt the title, and I think they need to because she is so hot right now. Like going forward, like they need to strike when they have it right now, and she's just it's amazing how she lost that match with Thunder Rosa, but yet she's the one who's just gotten all the momentum from it. It just speaks volumes to her character right now and what she's doing with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They really botched that follow-up, in my opinion, on that whole thing. I just think we've seen Thunder Rosa once, and it wasn't even like live or anything. It was in a quick promo.
It's bizarre.
Yeah,
bizarre.
It was weird. I don't know. Maybe there's something going on. Again, I always try to give AEW the benefit of the doubt because they normally prove me wrong, or whatever I complain about, they fix the next week or something. But if it has merit, of course, because I definitely complain about things that don't have merit on here. But I'm with you. I'd like to think. I don't think if I was in person I'd boo her. I'd have to be honest. I'm sure during the match, as she always does, she would make me boo her. And with a good face, like, again, I'd probably be cheering. Like, if we had a Ty Conti versus Britt Baker, I'd probably be cheering for Ty Conti. I think, again, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't mean to speak for you, but when you watch with a critical eye, it's just hard not to appreciate someone with a talent like she has.
Exactly.
And the cheering and whatever would almost come from more of just like, again, I think you're brilliant kind of thing, you know? But I'm with you.
And because you see the work, yeah, like in the dedication that she's put into it, especially someone her like she was studying to be a dentist when she was training to be a wrestler.
She's still a dentist too.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Like it's a real thing. Like it's not just a gimmick or whatever. So like that's why it's so hard not to cheer for her.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. She's, you know, I've always said Charlotte Flair is my favorite wrestler of all time, men, women, everything, which is a weird take for a lot of people, I'm sure, but Britt Baker is slowly moving her way up there, and how long has she been around? It's crazy. But I'm with you. I'm hoping she takes the belt. I don't know if she will, honestly, just because I don't think Hikaru Shida is the face to take the belt off. I don't think there's enough heat behind that, but I could be wrong, and they could prove me wrong. But my dream booking, right, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this too, is that I think that title belt is the most disgraceful thing in the world. I think that looks like a little, like McDonald's. You know when you were a little kid, you get the a Happy Meal toy from McDonald's?
Yes.
And I got two brothers, and so when they would always give me the girls' toy, and I'd always go back up there and be like, can I have the boys' toy? Because the girl toy sucked. And, and foreshadowing my, you know, future wrestling fandom. But, and to me, the women's belt feels like the girl's toy from the McDonald's Happy Meal. Like, in comparison, even to that it's a weird analogy, but even to that TNT title, that TNT title is more beautiful to me than the actual world title. I think it's such a pretty belt, but I think that women's title is awful. So whenever Britt Baker wins the title, and I think she has to be the woman to do this, I want her to pull like a Medusa, get a trash can, drop it in, and like unveil a new awesome women's title because these women deserve something more than a McDonald's Happy Meal toy.
It's so funny, and I'm so happy that you bring that up because I literally thought the same thing.
Oh, good.
When I was thinking that she's going to, in my mind, she's just going to win. Like I literally pictured the same thing with her coming out the following Wednesday with a brand new title. To me, like first of all, it's so small, right? Like, and I think it was so obvious when Nyla Rose held it up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Nyla Rose. Yeah,
it literally looked like a toy, like something you would buy from Walmart, or in like the gold or the plate of it itself. It was like one of those, like if you copy and paste it like an image onto Word, but it was still shrunk, right? You didn't straighten it back out to the original size, and you just printed it off that way, and then that was your plate. So like it's just tiny in size. It's just bizarre. Like I remember the night when they unveiled it, and I was just so disappointed. I was like, really, all this hype for this? It's just, yeah. So Britt, and she would be the best one to do it. It's time. Like, retire that belt, let Sheeta keep it or whatever. But it's horrible.
Yeah, I am with you. It honestly, remember the original TNT belt when Mike Tyson was falling asleep during the match? You know what I'm talking about? Like, that was a nicer title belt, I think, than this women's title. It's just, again, it looks like a tiara. And
so,
it's degrading, you know?
Really quick, would you take this title or the 24/7 title?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, my. I think I'd take this title only because, and I'd probably take this title over the Raw and SmackDown tag team titles because I can't stand the color behind them. The green, the blue,
Yes.
the red. To me, that it doesn't. To me, a title is black, white, gold, silver, whatever, platinum, all those like shiny color. When you start putting in like, matte, dull colors like that, it just. But let me say this though, I'd almost take the Divas belt over this title. I wouldn't, but it's a close race.
Ooh. Ooh.
It's that because at least that title looked big. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly,
if you size comparison, and you look at WWE for all of its faults. First of all, the NXT Women's title, I can't tell the difference between the men's title. And though there's probably a couple problems with that, at least it's pretty similar. And like that is a little small too, maybe because Raquel Gonzalez is holding it now. But the main roster titles are almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it says a lot again. I think if you want an evolution in this women's division in AEW, and there's definitely been one, totally a lot of work to be done. And I think, like we said, maybe some of those WWE releases could help with this evolution continued. Even the bunny has been impressing me lately. But
Yeah.
like that would be the marker, just like when, again, you had Stephanie McMahon, of course, come out and unveil the new women's title belt rather than the Divas. I think it would be just a similar thing of going from, McDonald's Happy Meal toy to like a real women's title belt. I think that would be an awesome moment. And like I couldn't see anybody else but Britt Baker doing it. Like the star of the women's division, period. I don't care who's the champion. When you think about AEW women's division, you think about Britt Baker. And she's a draw, too. The ratings, she is a draw.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't need to like advertise her to you, of course, out of all. And probably anybody listening too, because again, I think we can all appreciate Britt Baker. Any other thoughts before we move on?
No, we could continue, but we should probably move on.
I know, just do an entire podcast on Britt Baker.
Right.
I'm sure we could do it. All right, in between, not in between. I have on my notes. I'm not PG. In between stuff. We had a Miro package. Again, about time. Basically, he's saying that he needs vindication. He doesn't care who you are. If you have a title, you have a problem, and basically puts Darby Allin and Kenny Omega on notice. I will say the one thing that popped me is that he called Sting an emo face paint daddy. That was good. He's got good lines like Xanax head or something. He called Orange Cassidy or it's just like a walking Xanax bar. Like I like he's got a couple good one-liners. And I'm so happy, as much as I actually am like a Kip Sabian apologist, I think. But I am so happy to see him. Again, why are we here? We're here for going after titles. It's all about believability. It's all about making this feel like a real simulated sport. These little things, to me, make that happen. So I'm curious, what were your thoughts on this? And do you think Miro is the one to dethrone Darby Allin?
Yeah, that was actually what I had written down to ask you as well, if he was going to be the one to defeat Darby Allin going forward. And also my second bullet point was that Sting is emo. So that got me as well. But yeah, and Miro, he looks jacked. Like he's been like putting time in the gym. Like he looked in really good shape. So it's encouraging to see him actually take a more serious route and have a direction that he wants to be a champion. And I think I guess to me it's got to be obvious that he's going to start with Darby Allin, or maybe it shouldn't be obvious. I don't know, but I think that would be a good feud going forward. I feel like it would be hard hitting, and I would love to see what Darby and Miro could come up with, because I feel like, especially if they were given like a 20-minute match on like a pay-per-view or something, that I think that they could actually have like a good story to that and a pretty good hard-hitting match. And I think it's something that Miro needs. Even if he ends up losing that match, he just needs a standout match in AEW just to solidify why he's there and that we should take him seriously there. So eventually he can face either Kenny Omega or whomever it is for the championship going forward. But I think right now we just need to actually build him as a serious character going forward.
I'm with you 100%. I think he looks awesome too, and I was a fan. Like I'm a fan of. I was a fan of Rusev. I was on the Rusev day train. I was a fan of Miro
same.
when he first came. I just think the storyline went so long for a terrible payoff at the pay-per-view, and then I think a redemption story, some retribution. I'll leave that there. Some retribution for that storyline with the Sue and Arcade Anarchy. That was all brilliant, but I'm with you. I'm curious to know though, how do you think they get there? Because I don't know where Miro is in the rankings, but I don't think he's not in the top 5 from what I can remember. And maybe I'm wrong, but they have all these Face of the Revolution ladder match, Casino Battle, all this stuff, right? And not once has the winner actually won the title. I don't know if that's a fun fact, fun stat if you didn't know. And so I'm curious, maybe they do something like that. I mean, as soon as Double or Nothing, he wins that and he faces Darby Allin, whatever, the next night and actually wins, and finally they can put some. It's like having, to me, it's like having the Royal Rumble winner every time lose at WrestleMania and then having every Money in the Bank cash in lose. It's like, okay, why am I putting myself through a ladder match? It seems like my
Right.
odds are pretty low. So I could see him doing that to kind of skip the rankings thing, and I would totally forgive that because we talked about through the show, and I don't think we mentioned it once, but they've been talking about the rankings. Britt Baker, obviously, that whole thing, making sure we're keeping that up front. That's what we're going with. But every now and then, a little loophole around it, I'm okay with. So I don't know. How do you think they get there?
Yeah, honestly, and for me personally, I'm not a fan of the ranking system. Like, I
Okay.
don't, it's like I am and I'm not. Like, I feel like it was a good idea and it could work, but I just don't feel like enough emphasis is placed on it. And it's just, for me, like, the majority of the matches that are won to boost them in the system itself are done on Dark and Elevation. So, it's just the majority of your fan base isn't seeing what happens on a week to week basis. So when you do have like oh my gosh, Max Caster, I think he was
Yeah.
pretty high in the rankings to the point where I was kind of shocked. I was like,
Like
wow.
what?
And then
Yeah,
I realized like
exactly.
how many matches he had won. I was like, wow. Like I didn't even realize I missed that many matches that he had been in. So, and I'm a fan of his. Like I'm not knocking on him, but I just was surprised. So I just wish that, and I get it, they only have a certain amount of time, and I'm kind of a hypocrite too, right? Like I sit here and complain that they cram too much into a show, but then like you want to see them build, like you want to see a certain star like actually progress in the rankings week to week, like an Adam Page, like we've been seeing him more frequently. So I don't know, like to me, like I want to be a fan of it and I don't hate it, but I just wish that there was more spotlight shown on the matches themselves, just me personally. But I'm totally with you. I kind of expect them to go that route because it seems like that's what they've been kind of doing lately, to get like their next challenger for or like a big name title match at least. And they even have like what was it, the Casino Battle Royal or the Brass Ring,
Yeah.
the ladder match, I think it was. So I kind of figure he's gonna win one of those, whatever it's gonna be called, like Battle Royal or ladder match type thing, and then like you said, face Darby Allin the following week.
And hopefully when I'm of the I totally agree with you. I think there's definitely flaws in the ranking system. I like the principle of it, the concept. I think for sure. I think the idea, like we said, it's like a simulated sport. I want to believe that these guys are all fighting to be the best, and what better way to show that than literal rankings? Remember when they had those SmackDown rankings forever ago? And like there was a
Yeah,
whole feud
yeah.
between Bobby Roode and Randy Orton because he was ranked lower. I don't know, whatever. I don't know why I just thought of that, but no, real rankings. I think there definitely needs to be some improvement though about whether it's talking about it more. Again, I don't know how they do this or whether it's maybe highlighting a little bit more of what happens on the other show. But then, like you said, it's already so much in 1 2 hour show on TNT. I think the principle itself is good. I hope they keep the principle and keep it going. I think they just need to fix some how they build stories around it rather than just again having Adam Page come out and win a match every week. It's fun to watch, but sooner or later it's going to get old. You know what I mean? Um,
For sure.
but yes, I'm of the belief that a big man holding a title, and not even like a big man, but again we talked about this, the size thing, like when you had John Cena U.S. Open Challenge, right? Kind of the and I could be wrong. There could be something in some indie thing that I don't know about, but to me, the birth of this whole Open Challenge thing, like this week by week Open Challenge thing, from again my timeline of wrestling was that when you had guys coming out going in against John Cena, it really felt like it was a challenge, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the Darby Allin match later, but to me, the problem with this is that it feels like Darby Allin escapes with the win every single time, just barely. And I get how that's kind of a challenge, but imagine having Miro, again, maybe he doesn't do an open challenge, maybe he does a kind of open challenge, but you have to be low on the ranking system, or maybe he does an open challenge, but you have to be under 205, or something along the lines of just makes a heel version of the open challenge. I want to see these like littler dudes, like I want to see the Rey Mysterio Batista thing, Rey Mysterio Big Show, whatever. Like, give me Jungle Boy and Miro. To me, that's a lot more interesting than Darby Allin and Miro. And again, I could just be like an old-fashioned wrestling fan who likes the big Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant kind of thing. Um, but that's why
Yeah.
I would love to see him win the title.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think in a way too, it kind of, because like, I guess the classic, like, you want to see the babyface like chase the title and chase and like go through hardship to become victorious, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
like it's you want to see him fight and overcome that hurdle, and like you said was spot on, because I've actually thought the same thing. Like I really enjoy Darby Allin. Like I like his character. I like how different he is, and I like the freedom that they give him to be who he is. And I love that. I always love his vignettes. Like at one point, it was kind of getting redundant just seeing him do like this, like just like a stunt after a stunt. But like once he had like a direction and a story, like it was fun to see like his vision play out. So like I'm totally like invested in him, and I want to see him do well. But him right now, like you said, every week you do just feel like he is just escaping. And this week that's why it was kind of refreshing to see him in Jungle Boy, which we'll get into, but because it was someone more on his level, so it was more believable. Where like you kind of thought like maybe Jungle Boy did have a chance in a few spots, but yeah, like it's just. I think someone like Miro having that championship and just kind of dominating like that portion of the roster, it would be so fun, and just something like it just kind of like that would keep you intrigued, and kind of like a nice thread from week to week.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I guess last question on this, and then we can move on from we're talking, 20 minutes, it feels like, about a Miro package, which is crazy and good, right? At least we're not talking about the Kip Sabian storyline. But if you were going to have Miro or Lance Archer be the next TNT champion, who would you go for?
Ooh. So if
Yeah, there's
Miro,
your
if he's
payback for that 24/7 championship question.
yeah, yeah, touche. No, fair enough. So if all right, so I'm gonna throw stipulations though at you. So if we go Miro, he has to be heel and like a dominant heel champion. If we're gonna go Lance Archer, he has to be babyface and dominant babyface champion.
Okay. I think you probably know my answer is Miro. I don't, and again, we're jumping ahead here. I'm just not Lance Archer just isn't hitting for me. I don't know if it was like the previous promo, where just like a jumbled promo a couple weeks ago, and this I will talk about Sting too. That if you've ever listened to the show, you've heard me probably rant about Sting and how we have to keep mentioning Sting every few seconds. But I don't know. For me, Miro it just fits in my head better. But again, I'd probably be fine with either, again, as long as it's some big guy and we get to see some, like you said, some challengers. Like, again, I want to see that. I want to have that vibe where I see Sami Zayn come out and I'm like out of my chair on a near fall biting, thinking he could actually take the title from John Cena, rather than another roll up by Darby Allin. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm
No, it
excited
totally does.
where we're going.
No, I'm right there with you.
All right, awesome. And well, probably one of my favorite parts of the show, we had the interview with the Inner Circle with Tony Schiavone. Well, it wasn't really an interview; it was more of a promo. I'm gonna probably not even try to recap this. I'll give you a quick. But Chris Jericho comes out and says, "Who cares about the pineapple? Who cares about the pinnacle?" And it says, "Love that we got the loud chants." Oh, no, I'm sorry. He said it's gonna leave a trail of tears all the way to the Pineapple store. I mean, the Pinnacle store. I don't know. I'm such a sucker for Chris Jericho and those little lines.
Me too.
Took a shot at Wardlow's eyebrows. We get, Santana cutting a quick promo. Sammy Guevara says straw in Spanish. Jake Hager. I always say Jack for some reason. Jack Swagger. Jake Hager. It's so the comedic timing that guy has. I don't even think he realizes it. I don't think he knows how funny he is, and that's perfect because he's so. I don't know. I pop every time. Like I still over in my head, I'm like championships, yeah. Like I still remember that thing.
Me too. It kills me.
Well, he says he can sing show tunes too. I'm gonna save you and everybody else. Me trying to sing it, but it was funny, and it ends with I gave him a swirly, and then Jericho says, I washed my ass with that new silk scarf before Tully gave it to him. Just again, so simple, such childish humor, but it just, again, AEW knows they're funny, and we don't have to, drive it home. And then, again, like I said before, takes all that stuff. We're talking about a old-fashioned parlay. Like, what the hell is that? Who cares? The funny little, names Chris Jericho puts on things makes it so much better. But at the end of the day, right, comes back looking straight into the hard cam or a camera, and at Blood and Guts, the Inner Circle owns your ass. Like, I love that. I like this promo better than last week's. And small little detail, too, before I throw it over to you. You know, Jericho says something about how the Pinnacle is, like, mute besides MJF, kind of like we were talking about, like, oh my god, Wardlow speaks. You know, I think FTR cuts a good promo, you know, and I haven't heard a lot from them. So, obviously, Tully has been speaking a lot, too, but I like that. And then, when he says that, or even before he had even said that, he had some of the other Inner Circle talking. You know what I mean? And again, not that he's, like, the puppet master, but just, it's such a small detail. But if he goes out there and he's like, oh, the Pinnacle is mute besides MJF, but he's the only one talking in the Inner Circle, it comes across as hypocritical. It's so funny, but it's like those little details that get paid attention to that, again, as a fan, I just feel rewarded in some kind of way, like fulfilled from that for some reason. It's just attention to detail. So I love this, as you can tell. I think, you know, the only thing I'd say about it is, like we talked about before, I think the Pinnacle need their heat back. And hopefully it happens next week. And like I said, I assume they're going to win Blood and Guts. But this was entertaining. Chris Jericho is always entertaining. What'd you think?
No, I agree with you 100% there as well. I think it's fun to finally be able to cheer a babyface Chris Jericho, like, and to just cheer him be allowed to, you know, and be able to sing his entrance music and know that, like, you're cheering him, but, like, you're gonna have to hate him later on, you know. So it's fun to finally, at this point in his career, be able to embrace that and just, because you see the enjoyment on his face too. Like, that's just natural to me when he comes out and everyone's singing his music every week. So that's gonna be totally cool. Like, just knowing that they're singing your actual song, and being there in person too, and just hearing everyone. It's like the coolest thing ever. So. It's just one of those things that it just makes you enjoy AEW, whereas WWE, like, you don't really have that freedom. So it's just another one of those things. But I really enjoyed this segment as well, and I really enjoyed Santana's promo. And it was nice to be able to hear him speak and to be able to see his intensity and just address the Pinnacle themselves and FTR and just actually hear something from them and not just see them in the background. Because I was actually wondering as well if they were going to say anything at all, or if they were just going to be kind of standing there by the wayside as well. But I really enjoyed this segment as well, and it's just, we'll see what happens at the Blood and Guts. But I don't know. I think it may be a toss up. I don't know. You think the Pinnacle's going to win there?
I think they have to. I think, you know, I think the Inner Circle, I don't want to say they're Teflon, because that's not true at all, but I think the recovery for the Inner Circle is a lot shorter of a road than the recovery for the Pinnacle would be, trying to, you know, you've already heard MJF says he's undefeated when, you know, we all saw he lost to John Moxley, but he goes with the whole eye patch thing and yada yada. Not the eye, I'm thinking of the wrong match. Chris Jericho match. The paradigm shift, he wasn't allowed to use that whole thing.
Yeah.
I just can't. MJF is great on the mic, but I just couldn't see him getting out of the loss to this one, as well as probably the Inner Circle could, you know, tuck their tail between their legs and you know, maybe this feud goes on after that. I don't know.
No, fair enough. To me, because I think back, because didn't they lose the Stadium Stampede match as well? The Inner Circle, or did they win that match? I think they lost. So to me, it's just that's the only thing that kind of worries me. Like, would they disband after that if that's the direction they were going? Again, like, that's just me just like projecting way into the future, but just to see like where they go week to week and just like, because I think like especially next week and what's going to happen at Blood and Guts, I think that will kind of indicate what direction each group goes in after that.
Well, I think that's the fun in it, too. I love that. Like you said, if Inner Circle loses, again, we're booking way ahead. But then, you know, maybe you have disband, or maybe you have Hager and Sammy disband. And then, I don't know, I think Santana and Ortiz are like a babyface tag team just, you know, like I'm salivating for. I just think
they gotta be.
So I can't see that happening, but I could see, I don't know, somehow, maybe at Blood and Guts someone turns on somebody. I don't know. Maybe it's I could see Sammy Guevara going back to being a heel. Though again, I feel like I'm just getting a cheer for him, which is tough, I have to say. And I think I struggle with this again. And we'll talk about, you know, later on with some of these wrestlers. Just but the extra, I don't want to even call it extracurricular. The outside issues some of these wrestlers have had, including Sammy Guevara. It can be tough to try to put that to the side sometimes and try to just enjoy them as the talent that they are on the screen. But I do my best, and I feel like I'm finally getting to cheer for someone like Sammy Guevara, who's a young talent, got a lot of potential. Stupid, obviously, we all know that, but clearly, I don't see Chris Jericho going back to a heel already, so I think something's gonna shift there. Or like I said, maybe they just tuck their tail between their legs and move on. But the fun thing is like, again, I don't know, and that's the best part about it, I guess. And having so much faith in a process rather than being like worried coming out of a pay-per-view is such a refreshing feeling.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, and really quick before we move on, I think the difference in a segment like this and like the funny parts in Jericho's promo tonight, like they can get away with it because the majority of their show isn't made up of it week to week, and it's just Chris Jericho, and he has control over it. And like, yeah, it's kind of like you said, like high school humor, but it's like tongue in cheek, right? Like it's kind of like you're all in on the joke type of thing. Whereas like, and you can enjoy it, and they don't beat you over the head with it. It's just in that one segment, and then you move on. It's kind of refreshing in that aspect, and you kind of need something like that throughout the show just to kind of buffer it out a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I love it's like it calls him Oliver Twist. Like I pop for that too. Like little,
Yeah.
it's subtle, but it's
Yeah.
not subtle. I totally get what you're saying, and again, it's nice to be able to like again, this is sports entertainment, quote unquote, right? Cody Rhodes talks about how they want to be the buffet for everybody. I think this is part of the buffet. You get your hardcore stuff like a barbed wire death match. Even still, you got John Moxley coming out drinking a flask that he can't get open, but like
Right.
you get all this, but. It's just like every one of your probably favorite TV shows or whatever. There's little, I don't know anybody who just loves a show that's just like all drama all the time. You need your little light spots here and there. And it's almost funnier in those shows. I don't know if you, again, tangent, it's totally side note, but like when you're watching one of those shows that's just serious all the time and they make the little jokes here and there like, I don't know, first thing that's going to my mind is like we watched that show Designated Survivor or even House if you wanted to go way back. Serious show, but then House drops a line and it's hilarious because again, it's just the context of the whole thing. So I'm with you. I think the humor is hilarious. I think they do such a good job. Not too much, just perfect. Again, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, perfect amount.
Right there with you. Yeah.
So next we had Billy Gunn versus QT Marshall. Obviously, Billy Gunn representing the Nightmare Family and QT Marshall representing the Factory. I think that's what they're going with. I'll obviously run down the match, but I want to hear your thoughts on the whole, the beatdown, all the new Factory stuff, the Anthony Agogo, and all that good stuff. But again, I won't, labor over this because it was Billy Gunn and QT Marshall. I was thinking to myself, and I have like just pre-match thoughts of like, imagine if they didn't have stable. You hear in people like that, like the people who just like to hate on things. AEW's filled with too many stables, or it's all too confusing, or whatever, right? Imagine if neither of these guys had stables or friends that they were a part of. This would be the most boring match ever. Billy Gunn versus QT. I don't know about you, maybe that's just me, but I think this would... I don't want to see this, but because of the stables and all that stuff, there's actually some merit behind it. I said if this goes any more than 5 minutes, which it just barely did, I'll be bored. But, real quick Billy Gunn looked great, is gets most of the offense in the beginning of the match, and then obviously we have the Factory get involved. Billy Gunn kicks out of a pile driver. I thought that was crazy. And then obviously Anthony Agogo comes out, hits that punch to the abdomen, and QT Marshall is able to hit the Diamond Cutter for the win. After the match, Dustin Rhodes comes out with the bull rope, but instead grabs the chair, and just the wooden lawn chair or something. I don't know what that was about. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you can explain that to me, but...
No, I had no idea.
That was weird, right? But
Yeah.
That's why they had that under the ring, too. Just totally random. But anyways, hits Nick Camarado over the head. Just no-sells the hell out of that. I thought that was awesome. And then obviously they're separated by security. And really, the only thing I had in my notes about this was it was nice to see someone else go for the famouser besides Dolph Ziggler.
Right.
so yeah.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? The match, the Factory, the beatdown, which I thought was great. Anthony Agogo, I think is like the biggest star out of all this, in my opinion. But what do you got?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I wasn't really knowledgeable on him before AEW signed him, and then I kind of did like a little bit of research on him, but. I think he, like you said, I think he's definitely going to be the breakout out of it. And I could see QT being his manager going forward. And one of my notes is just Billy Gunn is huge.
Yeah.
Like he is massive. You kind of forget like seeing him like just hang out ringside, like how massive this dude is until he gets in the ring. It's just like insane. Like 'cause I don't even know how old he is at this point, but like he looks amazing to say the least. But it was a pretty good match, and like you said, like if this was just a regular just Billy and QT out there with no backstory, no nothing, just kind of like just filling time, it would be kind of boring. Like, you would probably get up and go do whatever, but there was a little story back like to it, and you kind of wanted to see how it played out, and I think they did just enough in the amount of time that they had, and they didn't push it. I think if they maybe had gone like a few minutes more, it kind of would have been like drug out a little bit, but I think it was what it was, and it got the job done, and I never thought I'd really be invested in QT Marshall, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like I'm interested to see what he does going forward, and I like that he wasn't directly involved with Cody Rhodes tonight, and they really didn't play off of that. It was just directly with Billy Gunn and the people ringside, so it was fine.
Yeah, it's been nice to see that Cody's been off TV for a little, like really, and it makes such a difference when you sell an injury like that or sell a beatdown like that. Again, each week
Exactly.
it makes it a little bit more and more intense. And speaking, selling injuries, we'll get into those guys, but this, I told, again, I was watching this with my fiance before, and she was like, when you guys are done, can you bring your computer back and can we rewatch this segment? Because we thought this was so funny. All right, you have the Elite in their trailer with their own private cameraman, and essentially Callis is putting over the Elite, and then they say it's called All Elite Wrestling, not All Moxley Kingston Wrestling. They all sing, come knock on our door. And Kenny starts to try to say something, but then there's a bunch of honking going on in the background. And, of course, we all knew it, Moxley and Kingston are in a huge raised truck, and they just T-bone the Elite's trailer. Somehow the Elite are nowhere. I don't know what that was, but the dialogue in this, Kingston's like, where are your sneakers at? Moxley made the phrase bitch af sound cool. I just want to throw that, like, what?
Right.
So
No
I
one
love
but-
this.
No one but him.
This was amazing. Yeah, and Moxley and Kingston somehow really managed to, like, be so funny, but also such badasses at the same time. Love the way he, like, smashed the window so casually. It's just those little things, so clearly I love this. What are your thoughts?
I'm right there with you as well. The only part that kind of like just had me like questioning it was like where they went. Like I was fully expecting like them to go into the trailer and at least like have some type of like physical altercation or whatever, but like we got nothing. They just disappeared. Kind of like Shaq in the ambulance, right? Like Shaq just disappeared.
Yeah,
Like
it's still an
they
ongoing
never came back.
storyline.
So it's like they just disappear. So that kind of like it was just completely dark. But then like if you looked to the left, like you could kind of see like a little like lighted area. So I was like, well maybe they're in there. And I expect him. I don't know. Like I was expecting him to kind of like go down towards like the end of the trailer. But I loved everything else about it, and I love John Moxley and Kingston just together, and I hope they stick as a tag team for a while because just the little impromptu things, and at the end when Moxley was throwing the pipe through the window and Kingston was like, "Can you let me like watch out?" or something like that, and just like the little like one-liners that they make towards each other, it's just you can tell that they have a history, and it's so cool to see them just like playing off of each other like that. But yeah, I totally want to go back and rewatch it myself.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I almost feel like I'm letting that slide just because I love this so much. But it's again that was a huge miss thing. I'm sure though, like I've always said, I feel like next week, I mean, there'll be some explanation. You know what I mean? Like, and I still have faith that one day we will figure out where Shaq went. Still waiting on that one. But yeah, I this is just great. I mean, it's so real. I think that's the best word to describe it. Moxley and Kingston are so real. And I know, again, if you've ever listened, he's on Renee Packett's podcast. Like, he's been on twice. He talks about doing cocaine in libraries on the first one.
Yeah,
And then they do
I've
that
heard
Valentine's Day one. Like, he's just, again, I don't know how real, if that's the best word to describe that, but he's just, like, unapologetically himself, and there's something so refreshing about that. And I think Kingston is the same, so I'm with you. I hope they win. My booking, and I don't know about you, is I maybe Double or Nothing, maybe later, but I'm hoping Double or Nothing, they take the titles off the Young Bucks. I really think the best, like, transition from world title to, next thing for Jon Moxley especially is the tag team titles. It's like a demotion, but not a demotion.
Yeah, and exactly. I think in a weird way to me, I kind of view it as, excuse me, as his run with the tag team titles would be like John Cena with the U.S. title in a way,
Oh, yeah,
just
it's a great
him going
comparison.
down into that division and just kind of like elevating it in a way, or just maybe not even elevating it because AEW has done such a good job with their tag division. It's probably the best, one of the best ones out there. And I think that just having him in there and just showing that he is serious about those tag titles, him and Eddie Kingston, I think that would just prove another point, and just seeing them go on like maybe a 6 month to a year, depending on the direction they're going in at that point story wise, just like a solid reign and just the importance behind it. I think that would just be fun to see, and just to see what kind of matches they would come up with, and like, because they would try to do like some type of like crazy, like maybe not another death match,
Like a
but some type of like
shotgun match,
yeah,
yeah.
like just something crazy out there. So that could be a cool direction to go in, but it's fun to see him in a role and not be obsessed with the heavyweight championship, but he still references it here and there sometimes too. So it's not like he's completely abandoned it. So I'm happy with the direction that he's going in now, and it's just cool to see him team up with Eddie Kingston, because Eddie Kingston was so underrated, and it's refreshing to see him on TV too.
Yeah, I can't, WWE kind of I don't remember what the story is, but they tried to sign him or let him go or something, but crazy to think that. I'm with you. I think, I don't think elevation is the right word necessarily. Again, no pun intended. I almost feel like they could bring not lightheartedness, but just, and again, fun maybe isn't the right word. Maybe just like a new dimension is the best way I could put it to the tag team division. I think they would be great, just like you said, awesome matches, and we get a fun, love it, like, humorous but also serious promo from Kingston and Moxley like weekly. I'd love that. Um, and yeah, I'm booking, John Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus whoever in a Firefly Inferno match.
Yeah,
That's the only
absolutely.
next place that they can go.
It's the only logical place at this point.
Exactly. All right, we're winding down here. We had Powerhouse Hobbs versus Christian Cage. Obviously Team Taz was banned from ringside, and the story of this match was exactly probably what you expected it to be. It was Hobbs' power versus Christian's experience and technique and knowledge and all that good stuff. Most of this match was, Kristen in the beginning trying to grapple but just continuously getting outpowered. And again, it's such an easy formula, but it always works like that. Oh crap, this guy's actually really big and strong. And he tries to outsmart him, that diving drop kick, all that stuff, and then of course Hobbs takes control with the forearm. That image of his face being shoved into the barricade, I don't know why. I don't buy that normally, like against the ropes or the chamber or the steel cage or whatever, but that got, like a guy like Will Hobbs, that got
Yeah.
me. And then when we come back from picture in picture, we get the start of the comeback, huge belly to belly slam to Christian, near fall. Frog splash for a near fall from Christian. Obviously, can you imagine Hobbs doing a frog splash? And then obviously Hobbs takes too much time trying to finish him off, and Christian is able to reverse into a kill switch for the win. What'd you think? I'll throw it to you first.
I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be, but I was kind of surprised that Christian won here, and it was a clean victory. I thought that they may try to protect Hobbs here, just because he does have so much potential in my eyes, and I thought that they were kind of maybe, at least out of the group, maybe they were trying to protect him a little bit more. But I don't know, like, I guess in a way maybe I'm so tainted by WWE, I expected like or some type of screwy finish or something here as well, but. And I'm happy that Christian, I guess, got the win in the sense that they are sticking with his direction for his character, that he is supposed to be racking up victories because he eventually does want to meet Kenny Omega. If they end up meeting face to face, or if he gets derailed at whatever point, but at least that is the direction that they have been going with for him. So it's refreshing to see that. But side note, like, I don't, what do you think? I may have missed it about his slogan, his "Outwork Everyone" slogan. Like, are you a fan of it, or what are your feelings on his slogan and his T-shirt?
I love the theme music. Let me throw that one out there. Well, I think
Okay.
all encompassing, actually, to answer your question, I think actually fits perfectly with this match and the idea of like outwork everybody, like especially that debut match with Frankie Kazarian. I'll go back to that. Like, I'll go back and watch that. It was such a good match. Again, just for
Yeah.
like when we talk about, like I said before, the buffet, like the pure wrestling fan of just like
Mhm.
loving just wrestling as a whole. Like, even if you didn't know anything about Christian Cage or Frankie Kazarian, just going into that match, like, entertained by just the wrestling and you know what was going on just because, again, they're such great storytellers. But I think the idea that Christian, I think the reason for Christian being in AEW, obviously he's has championships, yeah, to quote, the good old Jake Hager. But I think the idea of outwork everybody is almost like it's obviously in the storyline, but it's almost headcanon too, in a way, where Christian's not a spring chicken anymore. I don't think that's a hot take. But I think he is as much of a signing for the wrestlers on the roster as he actually is, for the fans, if not almost more for the wrestlers on the roster. I think he's, from what I hear about Christian, I don't know a lot, and again, I don't watch Impact, so I never saw his run there, but he is known behind the scenes for being someone who is a great wrestling mind, which is so funny because you just never really got to see that in WWE. Like, the only thing that comes to mind is that whole Randy Orton feud and the World Heavyweight Championship thing, which I actually loved, super underrated. But
me too.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And then now here he is. I think the point of this and why I could see your perspective of why you'd be surprised. I wasn't surprised at this at all. This was probably the surest match on the card for me, which is crazy to say, but was because I think the haters will say, I hate to use that term, but like the haters will say that he's always a legend coming in and burying talent. Like, he's doing the exact opposite, actually. Because how dominant did Hobbs look in this match? I think the picture-in-picture didn't help it much. But essentially, I think Christian is there to take those young guys like Will Hobbs, who have a lot more time left on their career than Christian does, obviously. If not, 3 times as long as he's probably got left. Show them how to work this kind of match on a live TV setting. Like this, just a typical big guy, less big guy, comeback match. Again, just standard pro wrestling. I think Hobbs looked incredible. His facials, everything. And again, just like the Karashita thing, you can just kind of tell that he's a general. So I think that outwork everybody is almost like this weird headcanon that's like, yeah, I'm here to outwork everybody and win the title, but I'm also here to show everybody like the work ethic and how to really do this thing well. And that's why I'm here. I think the not to go on a tangent, but the signing, like, they way over like, that was what under deliver and an oversell. As much as I love Christian, people were talking about Brock Lesnar and CM Punk because Tony Khan allowed us to. But I think for the wrestlers in the back and the actual roster, I think this would have been bigger than a Brock Lesnar or anything else, because I think they're going to get more out of having Christian on the roster than they would any other big name like that. So I think that's kind of what I think about his slogan. I don't mind it because I think it's more than meets the eye, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I couldn't agree with you more, and that's why I was asking, because a lot of people like they kind of like, a lot of people like you said, like, I hate to use that term, but like they hate on like that slogan and like just like that outlook on him. But to me, it's not like necessarily like just he's there to literally outwork everyone, but like it's his work rate in the ring, right? And it's the way he works his match, and he's not out there just to do spot after spot. Like, there's like an actual like beginning, middle, and end, like a story and like a philosophy to his matches, and like that to me, in my mind, like that's what that slogan means. Like, he's there to outwork everyone, not to out high spot everyone, and to not like get that oh my god moment or whatever, that that moment. Like, he's there to literally like outwork and like out wrestle everyone. So that's and I couldn't agree with you there more. Like, I thought it was probably one of the best signings that they could have done, like, especially behind the scenes role, because just like you, like, everyone states between the two, especially like Christian was like the better worker and just like the mind and Edge and Christian and like that whole unit. And it's cool to see like he actually is getting the respect and that he deserves, right, and the recognition. But I think it would have been so much more if they would have just brought him in without all that hype and all that fanfare to it, because they just like completely overshot it, and to a point where it was kind of sad and it wasn't really fair to him. But I'm happy to see him there, and he looks great too. Like, it looks like he hasn't even aged a bit. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's weird with Edge. It's almost like he's aged, but he hasn't aged.
Yeah.
He's got like a weird veteran look to him, and I think couldn't agree more with you with the oversell or the over promise, under deliver whole thing with him. I think it hurt him, but I think he's recovering well. from it, and I'm with you. Like, even because he's an older guy, right? So he has to work harder because his body just doesn't do what a 20-something-year-old body will do. I think that's part of it too. I think there's a lot more dimensions to like a silly slogan like that. Again, we could talk about. Apparently, we could talk about outwork everybody for an hour, but like when you watch him, it's almost like Shane McMahon. You know how Shane McMahon just sweats profusely in every match? Even before he gets to the ring, he's sweating. He can be cutting a promo when he's out of breath. It's like that kind of thing. Christian looks that way in the ring, deservedly so. And it's this weird balance of trying not to look like an old man, but also clearly showing you I'm at a disadvantage because I'm older and my body doesn't do what it used to do, but I'm still going to outwork you. I'm gonna. It's kind of like the best wrestling match ever thing. Like, I'm gonna out wrestle you. I'm not stronger than you. I'm not bigger than you. I'm not. Yeah, I can't do a 450 hurricanrana, backflip, but like I can out wrestle you. And I think he's like, this is such a weird analogy too, and we can move on if you want to after this. But he's like, when we talk about the buffet. Go to a buffet, you see crisp French fries and like, I don't know, whatever else, mashed potato, whatever you got at a fun buffet, bacon, whatever. But you still need to get your like hearty meat there. You know what I mean? You still need to get your staple of the plate or whatever it is that holds everything together. And I almost feel like that's Christian on the buffet. He's going to provide the pure wrestling.
Yeah, like that protein that you need.
Yeah, exactly. Just the pure wrestling on this show that is a pro wrestling show. Because again, I and you said too, I love Rey Fenix as much as the next guy, but it's nice to get, if it was a show of Rey Fenix's, Rey Fenix wouldn't be Rey Fenix. You know what I mean? So it's nice to get, I would love to see that matchup too, side note, but like, it's nice to get a good comparison of like, okay, we get I guess there weren't really a lot of like we get Darby Allin versus Jungle Boy next, but, which is actually very wrestling-esque, I was surprised, but you get like the high spot matches and you get the first match of last week, the Young Bucks versus Death Triangle, but then you also get this. So you're getting a little bit of everything, so it's not like you're just eating french fries or just eating a burger, you get a little bit of everything. So I'm about it. I'm happy that they have Christian. I think this was great. I think this was super well done, and I bet Powerhouse Will Hobbs, learned so much just from that 10-minute match.
Yeah, no, I can agree with you there more.
Well, perfect. Before we get on to the main event, we had a quick Jade Cargill promo. I would love to hear your thoughts. That's my excuse to ask you about the whole Red Velvet, Jade Cargill, all that Wear Shack, all that stuff. But essentially, this was Matt Hardy, Vicky Guerrero, and a bunch of others talking about how great it would be to manage her. And basically, Jade Cargill says, F off, I'm my own boss. And yeah, she is that bitch.
Yeah, and I'm about it. Like, I don't want her to have a manager. Like, I want to hear her talk. I want to hear what she has to say. Like, I want to hear her mouth off to anyone and everyone. Like, I don't want her to have like a Vicky Guerrero. Like, no disrespect to any of them, but like, she's a star. Like, you don't get someone like her often, especially with how new she is to all this. Like, it's amazing, and she's someone that you need to see build from the ground up, and just let her find her own self, right? And find her own identity, because no one else is going to be able to say like what she should say, and like no one else is going to be able to portray like who she is. So she in particular, like she just needs to be her own person. So I love what they did here, and I think her match with Red Velvet, like, it was so well done. Like, you would have thought that they would have been wrestling each other for months, and I think this was that their, like, first match one-on-one together? Like, their second, or something like that. It was crazy. So, like, just kudos to them, and I think Red Velvet should get a lot of credit and recognition there as well, because, like, she really held her own, but Jade, man, she is a star. So she's going to be, I think maybe if she continues this route, maybe she's going to turn into a babyface, and maybe she could be the one to face Britt down the road, depending on how far they want to push it out. But I think sky's the limit for her.
I love that booking, actually. I would have never thought about that. Yeah, I'd give Britt Baker over a year run, please.
Yeah.
I'm with you 100%. I think Jade Cargill is a star. We talk about those German suplexes. She's giving Brock Lesnar a run for her money. Those look brutal. And it's also, all the women are so small, obviously, in comparison to her, too. He looks incredible. I love she's, like, counting her abs in the middle of a match. Like, give me the push-ups. Give me all that. I love that. It's weirdly, like, and again, I know it sounds weird for me to say this because I wasn't born yet, but it, like, throws me back to, like, the early 1990, late 1980s of just like, again, I could be getting my time wrong, but like, just like the guys that were, and you actually got to help me. Is it Randy Savage? Someone they did all pretty Rick. Who was it? The guy,
Rick Rude.
Rick Rude. That's what I'm going.
Yes.
Came out. Unveiled the robe, all that stuff. Like I get those kind of vibes, and it's such a weird modern take on the old fashioned thing. It's so refreshing and great. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm a huge Red Velvet fan. I think this rivalry, as funny as it might sound, 2 years, they could do a giant callback for this, for a title, not main event maybe, because AEW I don't think is that progressive, but, big co-main event on a pay-per-view, and build their own history with this again. I think these two women, like you said, unbelievable. How many, they've had, I think, less than 100 matches, and, there was that one botch where Red Velvet smacked her head against not Britt Baker, she's on the mind now. Jade Cargill, like, I guess she didn't move out of the way fast enough or something. But, like, otherwise...
That happens,
Yeah, like, pretty much, like, flawless. And you think about it, like, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like, old NXT, like NXT that used to be on the network, like, as a fan of someone like a show like that, and, like, even AEW, watching some of these women, and some of the guys, too, the newer, like, especially with there's no house shows and stuff like that, I'm way more forgiving of a few botches, here and there, because it almost feels like, yeah, give these people, 5 minutes of almost developmental talent time on a live show. So what if it sucks? Fine. That's 5 minutes, but they got better, and I get to see them in a year, and they're going to be great, kind of thing. And I would have been fine with that. They talk about, under promising and like way over delivering. I thought that was incredible.
Yeah, and like to me, to be honest, and injuries aside, of course, but to me, like it kind of plays into the whole reason why like you enjoy unscripted promos so much, or at least just like something limited, like bullet points, right? Like I think bullet points for everything that you do in wrestling is the route that you should go if you're gonna be trusted to be on TV for that matter. Like you should be able to at least have bullet points for your match and for your promo and be able to get by. So I think that's what we kind of like need to remember too. Like, yeah, like it's wrestling, right? And it's choreographed, but like seeing like mistakes and that's why I said like injuries aside, like it's kind of refreshing too because it kind of like makes you like forced to pay attention to like anything can happen at any time. Like, so it's just kind of like a nice reminder that like, yeah, like it is dangerous and it kind of just makes you appreciate it more. But like, I'm here with it too. And like, I'm just, like you said, like the development here and just a good 2 year arc, like especially with the trajectory for both of them. Like I just think like sky's the limit for them. And I think Red Velvet too, she kind of reminds me of like Ty Conti. I think like she within a year is just going to be so much better than where she's at right now, just because you can see it in her, right? Like, you can see from both of them, but for her too, like there's just like that fire in her. She just like wants to keep getting better, and she has been.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I love that. No pun intended. It's like it's more raw. Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Like that was the whole exciting part about Raw when it went live way back in the day. Again, predating my birth, but like that's the kind of stuff or whatever that it's just not so clean cut and perfect because pro wrestling isn't so clean cut and perfect. I think go back to like Christian Cage and the sweating and the whatever. Like, they don't have to look perfect anymore, that like it's just a weird thing, but like the girls have the ponytails in their hair or whatever and it gets all messy. Like I think about Raquel Gonzalez when she won the NXT title, she looked like she just was in a fight, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just like all like stuff like that. It adds like an element of, like we talked about, believability and all that stuff. So I'm 100% with it. I'm hot take. I think, like you said, Red Velvet and Ty Conti, give them a year, 2 years. I think they're at where like a Sasha Banks Bailey level is now, wrestling wise. I really think with like teaching of Kenny Omega, Dustin Rhodes, I've heard they're huge advocates for the women. I'd like them to be more advocating for the women because more time on the show would be great. But with that kind of mentorship and Hikaru Shida and all these other people, you get Mickey James over there. Like you said, sky's the limit. I think so. All great stuff in the women's division, in my opinion. We're on an upward trajectory. Just get rid of the title.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, we've been going. We're almost hitting the 2 hour mark. So main event. I really appreciate you coming on, Ashley. I think it's so much more fun to be able to talk about this with somebody rather than I'm sure everybody is sick of hearing my voice. Though they keep listening, so maybe they're not.
No, I was about to say, if they were, they wouldn't listen, so you're doing something right, so you're good.
Well, so main event, Darby Allin versus Jungle Boy for the TNT Championship. We talked about this a little bit. Oddly enough, again, we've seen Darby Allin do it before, but I didn't expect it. A grappling match back and forth to start. Both guys, want to throw it out there before I say anything else, so talented. Like, I just want to make that clear. In the ring, super talented. Jungle Boy is the next babyface. A lot of people seem to really, really be behind him. Again, we've talked about that a little bit. The size thing's a little bit funny, but... And like you said, a lot of people are behind Darby Allin and like his whole style. But, yeah, grappling match. Jungle Boy, that bump over the barricade sends Darby Allin over the barricade before we go to commercial break or picture-in-picture. We come back. Jungle Boy hits a belly-to-belly. And then hits a belly overhead onto the turnbuckle. I remember that, looked brutal. And then the tiger suplex. Darby Allin hits this insane reversal. I thought that was awesome for the stunner. You get a crucifix bomb-like body scissors thing. I don't know if you know what that was called, but I had no idea. Some suicide dives, sentons, all the stuff you expect from Jungle Boy. Coffin drop on the apron. Again, all the stuff you expect from Darby Allin. And then obviously you get Luchasaurus kind of helping Jungle Boy back in the ring. I don't know. I didn't see him really. Maybe I looked away for a minute. And then, of course... Sting gets involved and, starts up with him. They quote-unquote brawl. Essentially, they get in like a collar, elbow tie-up and push each other into the back of the stage. And then Jungle Boy gets a near fall. And essentially, the match ends with Darby Allin, and I think they called it the Last Supper. Again, I don't know why I didn't know what this was, but it was like a really interesting roll-up. Maybe I missed something else too, but gouges the eyes to get out of the snare trap. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. And before we get into post-match, what'd you think of the match itself, the guys? Again, we talked about it a little bit, but Sting, please give me your thoughts on Sting. Please tell me I'm not the only one who's sick of the Sting thing.
So I'll start off with that. You're not the only one. It's just the same thing every week. Like, I was first very excited that Sting was here. I was right on that bandwagon. Second week, still excited. Third week, it's just the same. It's like, all right, like, what is he doing? And then it's just progressed. And yes, like, he's with Darby now, but it's just, even now, it's the same stuff. And, like, I feel like now, it's just, he's kind of lost his appeal, right? Like, I felt like after they had that match, like, it would have been the perfect time for him to just go away for a few months, at least until, like, the summertime, and then come back for something meaningful, or have Darby actually be a fighting champion and defend it by himself for maybe 2-3 months, and then come back when he's, like, really in, like, a tough situation or whatever. So whether that be with Mira or whomever his challenger is at that point, but just, like, when it's actually meaningful and he actually needs, like, Sting to come back and save him or whatever. So I'm just kind of tired of Sting being involved as much as, like, I feel weird saying that, and, like, I don't, like, not to be disrespectful or anything, but it's just, like, he's just not needed right now, and it's weird, and that's a good thing. You should kind of view it as a good thing for AEW and everyone involved, because that shows that Darby Allin is a strong enough character, and that he doesn't need Sting, and not saying he's not benefiting from having Sting there, but in a way, like, I just want to see what Darby can do by himself, and if he's going to be a fighting champion, and especially with, like we were saying, his size and everything that he's overcoming on a week-to-week basis, like, let us see that, and let us see how he's going to overcome that without having anyone else involved. So I thought tonight's match with Jungle Boy was solid, and it kind of reminded me of Jungle Boy and MJF, that really good match that they had. Not exactly to that level, but because that was still one of my favorites, but Jungle Boy is going to be something as well going forward, and yeah, like we were saying, like, size-wise, he's not the biggest guy out there either, but he kind of has that believable factor in it as well. Like, he makes you think that, yeah, he could somehow overcome the odds as well. So I think maybe in about 1.5, 2 years, maybe he could be like the TNT champion and kind of hold that division there. But I enjoyed this match a lot, but I wish it was just them two and no one else involved. And the tie-up between Sting and Luchasaurus, it was just laughable. Like, I was just, like, really, like, that, it just kind of made me cringe a little bit. It just kind of ruined it. Not to be negative, but it just kind of took me out of it a bit. And then Sting just comes back out like nothing happened.
Yeah, and
so it's like, and then
where's
where's Luchasaurus?
Yeah.
Like, did I miss something? So It was just kind of funny. So I don't know. It wasn't horrible though, and that's the good thing about AEW is stuff like that can happen, and it doesn't ruin the whole show for you, or it doesn't make you like hate the show. It's just like, all right, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. We're on the same page about that. Yeah, where did the Luchasaurus go? Sting comes back out, but of course when whatever, I guess he must have gotten hit with the Scorpion Death Drop off camera is what I'll go with. Yeah, I'm with you. I think AEW similar to NXT kind of thing. You can always depend on the work. The work is always going to be good for the most part, especially with like two guys like Darby Allin and Jungle Boy. Like this is not ever going to be a bad match. Kind of like the Hangman Page and Ricky Starks match. Like again, your expectations are high. I don't know why. To me, we brought up the MJF Jungle Boy match. That match blew this match out of the water for me. Like for some reason, the opening match and the main event for me, just like maybe my expectations are too high, but they underdelivered for me. And again, want to be super clear. I'm not saying they were bad matches. Great stuff. All Elite, maybe. Maybe again I hyped this too much in my head, but like I expect a lot from these two guys. I expected a lot from the two openers. I feel like I'm more pleasantly surprised with AEW than I am when I go into it and I'm expecting really really good stuff lately, and then it doesn't deliver as much as I want. I'm probably in the minority of I'm sick of this Darby Allin run. I'm sick of the roll-ups to win every match. I thought last week's match against Matt Hardy was senseless violence for senseless violence sake. I thought that was boring. I hate seeing Matt Hardy in singles matches at this point. And again, like you said, all respect to Sting, again, who probably has way more of an impact to somebody who's not my age. You know what I mean? And all respect to Matt Hardy, who does have a real big place in my heart. Always loved Matt Hardy. But I'm kind of like, okay, you did your thing. You know what I mean? Like, not right off into the sunset, but just, I don't want to even say, like, know your place. That's not what I mean, but just, like, you got someone like Darby Allin and Jungle Boy. I don't, like you said, I don't need all this fluff around it. Like, and I assume that's for the casual fan. That's not for the fan like you or myself, who's someone who's, like a diehard fan. But... So I'd love to hear, a casual fan, what they think of all this stuff, or someone who is a Sting fan. Maybe they love seeing him every week. But I'm with you. I think that's a great idea. Have him go away for a while, come back. I thought that cinematic match was really good, especially for cinematic match purposes. I don't know. But then again, like, this is my thing, though. What do we get after the match? The same thing we've gotten for how many weeks it feels like. These beatdowns after the match, or, Lance Archer and whatever. Like, let's... AEW has this bad habit, I feel like, lately of... Like, there is a bad version of everything, and there's a bad version of long-term story booking, and it's too long. It's, like, too dragged out. Like, you're an episodic television show, like, I need a little bit more each week. This Lance Archer thing, I'm, like, not getting enough each week to be interested in. I don't know if that makes sense, but we had Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page come out. It was good to see them, by the way. Great to see Ethan Page, I think, underutilized since he came. I would have loved to see a match with him and Cody Rhodes. And that never seemed to happen, but obviously they had bigger plans for Cody Rhodes. But yeah, they come out to try to beat down Allin and Jungle Boy. They get like one move off before Lance Archer comes out. Kind of no-sells a double blow, like a kick to the nuts, nothing. And then Sting, of course, Sting and the Bat come out, and the Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky run off. I don't know what you think. I think it was nice to see Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page because they had that whole promo and we never really got a follow up. It felt a little bit late. I don't know about you, but yeah, I need more. I'm more enthralled in half the other stuff going on in the show than I am with any of the stuff that they showed me in the main event.
Yeah, and to me, especially with Impact pay-per-view coming up, and say what you want about Impact TNA, that company in and of itself, but Kenny Omega just isn't the focus. He's your heavyweight champion, and he's just in one segment on the show. And granted, it was a good segment, but like, I feel like the one thing that I would say that I would, I guess, nitpick about AEW to me personally is the lack of focus on like the champion themselves. Like you just, especially for Kenny Omega, like he started off high and then he just kind of is. I don't want to say an afterthought because he's not, but it's just like he's not the focus, and it's kind of weird to me. And I can respect, like having the TNT title be spotlighted, but it just was last week, first of all, and I can see him like maybe I'm not even mad that they're in the main event or anything like that, but it's just kind of interesting to me, and just like there, like you said, like where are we going forward from there? Like where I don't see them, for instance, like Darby Allin and Jungle Boy having a rematch, and is Sting going to continue just to keep getting involved each week? It's just I don't know. It just kind of seems like a repeat in that respect, and I don't know. I don't see the true direction in that unless I'm missing something that's obvious.
No, I don't think you are at all. I think I'm, like, the best way to put it is I'm not on the hook for next week, if that makes any sense, in regarding to what they ended with. It almost feels like it's like every single week is the night before the Royal Rumble where they throw everybody out to brawl, and they're like, oh, you have to tune in on Sunday. Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, it's not doing it. It's like, you gotta come up, like, be a little more creative, I guess, with the booking, and like you said, progress. I do get the Kenny Omega thing. The one thing I'll say in the defense of Kenny Omega is, from what I hear and what I've read and all this and what I've seen too, Kenny Omega books in years in his brain. And that works for a New Japan, I think. And it doesn't work as well. Even at Kenny Omega, right, like, doesn't have a lot of live television experience. It doesn't work for an episodic television show as much. So, the giant, and we call it, like, the web around Kenny Omega, or whatever you want to call it. I picture, like, one of those, I don't know if you ever did, like, those little, like, graphs when you were in school, like, of the little thing in the middle and all those little things coming. I forget what they're called.
Yeah.
It's like that, right? There's like 14 things coming from Kenny Omega. The Young Bucks, Jon Moxley, you got Hangman Adam Page, Christian Cage, like all this stuff. It's great. And it's awesome to have, like, so it's almost like he's not your focus, but he is your focus. But like you said, you've got a dual title match. Like, you gotta, if you're gonna do this partnership with Impact, aren't I supposed to want to buy the pay-per-view? They did nothing for me there. I just could have used a little bit more. Have the women main event, I thought. Like, I think the women's match was more... I was more
definitely
invested in the story of the women's match than I was this match. So,
And then imagine it had going off the air with Britt Baker's, like Britt Baker's closing
oh my
segment there.
gosh.
And then you
Yeah.
maybe could have tweaked it without her just like cowering, like dodging the kendo stick, but just have her end it, like just tweak that a little bit. But like I just felt
Give
like
it
that
a
would have been so
bird.
much stronger.
Yeah, I thought that is how I probably would have booked it too. I think that would have been Twitter would have gone nuts about that. We all would have been talking about Britt Baker. Like, you and I would have been, excuse me, talking about Britt Baker for another half an hour after we finished the review of the actual show, I think. That's what I want. Not, great show, but main event, good wrestling, but just like, okay, cool. Like, I feel like it's almost like Groundhog Day with different faces every week, and I feel like I'm a pretty patient fan for the most part, but I'm ready. I'm sick of this Darby Allin stuff. I don't know if it's Sting again. I don't know if it's like the outside stuff with Darby Allin. I don't know what it is. I'm like, something's missing for me, but who knows? We could be in the minority. People could love this. I know Scorpio Sky's got a fan base too that are just itching for him to be on TV more. Again, I'm for Ethan Page. I have faith in AEW, but it's just how many weeks in a row are we going to do the exact same thing, and I'm going to be sitting on this podcast with you or by myself saying, like, well, hopefully next week is better. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. No, I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, that was the show this week. Any other comments as a whole about the whole show? I mean, like I said, I know we had a little bit, ended almost on like a cynical note, but I want to say, for 2 hours of my Wednesday night, I was thoroughly entertained. Sports
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too, like it's to me like everything that like we point out here is just to me like it's kind of nitpicking in a way. It's just because you expect and you enjoy AEW so much more, and every Wednesday, especially now that there's no worry about NXT on the other channel, like it's just refreshing just knowing, first of all, for me, that it's not WWE and it's just completely different, and it's just a completely different world in one aspect. So in that respect, like they've done so well for the short amount of time that they've been on TV in and of itself, which is admirable in and of itself. Like that's not an easy feat. So it's just little things there and there, but like it's never anything where like I don't even remember them having like a really bad episode of Dynamite like as a whole. Whereas like I can easily tell you when I've dreaded an episode of Raw or I just felt like I wasted 3 hours of my life, and I've never. Yeah. So I've never felt like that with Dynamite. So, and granted, I guess a lot of people would say we are in the honeymoon stage still or whatever, but I don't know. I don't have a bad feeling about them. And even if something wasn't great, like you said, like you kind of expect them to either explain it the next week or it kind of makes sense down the road. So it may be, I don't know, it may be a negative, but not in that aspect, if it makes sense.
No, I hear you 100%. They're definitely they're like, I'm thinking about that Takeover episode, the one that was same week at Takeover, first week with Tyson, I felt like was just like we gave up. But other than that,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of an episode that I was like, ugh, why did I just watch that? But before we sign off, Ashley, I'll ask you, we've been going on for a while, so we won't preview all next week. But I will ask you, what's one match for next week that they announced that you're looking forward to, and what do you think's going to go down?
Man, I'm really excited for Orange Cassidy next week.
I had a feeling you were going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned him earlier, but I'm a big fan of Orange Cassidy. So just seeing him out there a little bit this week and just the tease for that, like, is as much as it's crazy to say, like, his character just hooks me, man, and just the lack of care and just everything about him, it's so funny to me. So in a selfish way, I'm intrigued to see him just because, like, I feel like he, especially with like the lack of crowds there, he hasn't really been spotlighted as much as he has been in the past, especially with his whole run with Chris Jericho, which makes sense. But I'm really looking forward to him and just the show in and of itself. I think it's gonna be good as a whole. But what about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Orange Cassidy. There's been a few wrestlers in across all promotions that have like thrived in this whole crowdless era. Roman Reigns, I think, being one of them. Bayley has mentioned how she's been able to find her footing way more because she hasn't been worried so much about the crowd. I think Orange Cassidy though is one of the ones who's just like hurting because he's such he just feeds off the crowd. His whole character, it works because people are so behind him, even though what the heck is this guy doing, I think. But I'm with you. I think Orange Cassidy is incredible. I'll watch Penta anytime too. I think I'm looking forward to, this is going to be weird. Like clearly the parlay, I can't even take myself seriously saying that. Like I'm excited to see what they're going to do because, like I said, I have faith in AEW. But I think I'm going to go with the weird one, and I'm kind of looking forward to that Chris Statlander and Penelope Ford match. It'll be nice to see Kip Sabian back. Dynamic between Orange Cassidy and Kip Sabian on the outside, too. The actual women just getting to wrestle. Chris Statlander, it's great to have her back, and I'm curious to see, would there be a Miro involvement in anything? Kip Sabian backstage. Where are we going from that? The fact that I'm more hooked on that than the main event tonight shows you a lot. But it'll be good. I think I'm with you. The show I don't think on paper maybe looks as exciting as this week's, but I think it's going to be great. I mean, you got the Young Bucks and Max Sydal. You got the Young Bucks and the Sydal brothers. Everything.
Mm-hmm. That'll be good.
Exactly. A lot to look forward to. So again, before I let you go, Ashley, I want to say thank you so much. So fun to talk about AEW with some. Again, I think there are less people even out there. There are a few wrestling fans out there to be able to talk about this stuff with, but there are even less AEW fans to be able to talk about this stuff and just geek out for like 2 hours. So thank you.
No, yes. Thank you so much. And like you said, especially AEW fans nowadays. But hopefully that's gonna change and hopefully we continue to grow. So but no, thank you so much for having me on here. It's awesome to be able to talk to you about it.
Yeah, of course, we'll make AEW cool again.
Absolutely.
But and maybe hopefully we talked about it too, we'll see, but hopefully we can have you back on for the Blood and Guts show.
Yeah,
whatever
that'd
that's
be
gonna
great.
be. Whether it's just Blood and Guts or a whole nother match, whatever it is, I would love to have you back on. So before you go, any social media, all that stuff that I don't have?
Yeah, I was about to say you still don't have Twitter. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's not for me really.
No, I can respect that. You haven't caved in. It's a whole another world, so I respect you for that. But I have caved into the dark side. So I am on Twitter at ASHMANNS. So if you do cave in and join us, feel free to follow me as well.
You will be my first follow, Ashley. I
Yes.
promise. One day it'll happen, guys. One day it'll happen. But
Yes.
I don't have Twitter, but because I'm old, but not old. I'm old at spirit. I do have an email. So if you want to go back on your old computer thing.
Is it AOL?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's Hotmail actually. Could you imagine? Everybody has that like super. We all do that. Like like unicorn puppy 47 or whatever. You know?
Right. XX47.
No, it is mimi.realwwepodcast@gmail.com, guys, if you want to email me about your thoughts about AEW or highs and lows. I'm going to forget. I'll record a preview to this beforehand, but in case I forget, I do want to say, guys, thank you to all of you who reached out. So many wonderful well wishes. Crazy to think that you guys are taking time out of your day to do something like that. So I really appreciate it. And I can already tell you that this week's low, even though there won't be a highs and lows, this week's low will absolutely be that Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, Nia Jax thing that on Raw. We're not even going into it, but I just want to make sure we all know that. So, again, Ashley, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
All right, bye.
Bye.